Yeah, it doesn't start until this starts.
Okay, this is now on. Special meeting of the Arundel Planning Board, February 19th, 2015, at 7:04 PM is now called to order. I'd like a roll call, please.
Marty Hayes.
John McEnroe. Bob Coon. James Lauer.
Rich Canong.
Tom McGinn.
Marie Birdie.
Tad Redway, Town Planner.
Okay. You all have the agenda. Are there any additions or changes that we need to make?
The January 29th meeting, are we supposed to do the minutes from that?
I think
I
so.
thought we already did
I
that.
thought we did done those.
Approval of minutes, 2 weeks ago, we had approval of minutes.
We did
I
the,
think it was,
Yeah.
the only minutes that need to be approved are February 5th.
Okay.
I thought we did. A question, are we gonna be doing the, what was the one that was on the agenda last week?
The public hearing for Stickman?
Yeah.
No, we can't, we have to have the public hearing before we can do anything with it.
Okay,
So that's on the agenda for next week.
okay, are we gonna, so we'll have to discuss, is it already decided it'll be next week?
It had to be because they couldn't post it in time.
Okay, so, okay, that needs to be discussed, okay.
Anything else on the agenda that we need to add or take out?
Move to approve the agenda as written.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Okay. Approval of the minutes, February 2nd, 2015.
Who was there?
February 5th. Yeah.
What did I say?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
sorry.
were all-
February
You
5th.
weren't there. No? Okay. All right.
Move that we approve as written.
Motion's been made. Can I get a second? If for no other reason, then we can always discuss it and change it.
Right, I'll second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Do we have any changes? Anything that we need to fix?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of February 5th.
Motion's already been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Marty is abstained because he wasn't here. Zoning map change. Butler Grove has a zoning map change. He wants us to change from shoreline resource protection and natural resource protection, map 19 lot 7 and map 23 lot 15. I'll be right back in. We've seen this for quite a while, and we've discussed it. Is there anything we need to know about this, Mr. Weber?
Yes. We're going full circle. As you recall, the ordinance currently says that the shoreline zones are, being an overlay district, the actual location of the zones are where the field conditions exist. So when the field conditions exist, that's where the actual zone is. And the map depicted, the map is for illustrative purposes only. So Jim and I basically have walked this site going over, and had a few debates with, I'm sorry, I don't know why it's in black and white, it's supposed to be in color. Have to talk to Bud about that. But essentially, in talking to the town attorney, the way the ordinance is written, the ordinance basically says the code enforcement officer shall determine where the conditions are, and that's where the zoning line is. The town attorney, in discussing this with her, since we haven't done one of these before, essentially she disagreed with us. Said basically, it's not that she disagreed, she just said there's another section of the ordinance that says no town no zoning map can be changed without town meeting approval. So we have a very, very convoluted methodology for actually enforcing our shoreline zoning as a result. And she says that basically because that's what's written in in our charter, and it's in somewhat of conflict with the way the shoreline zoning works. And she was also concerned that there was a lower court ruling recently, Kennebunkport, and I think I mentioned this to the board in the past, where the court determined that although the standard of where shoreline zoning lines lie is where the field conditions exist, is a reasonable approach, especially given the difficulty of determining these lines without being on each individual site. They said they disagreed and that all towns should in fact map all these sites, and that the zoning map should reflect field conditions. There hasn't been a big rush by any municipality to do that, and there has been no challenge on that opinion. So it's still a lower court opinion, and our attitude is we're going to stick with the way the ordinance is written right now, because there has not been a law court decision on it. But in order to proceed with this, what this board needs to do is the board needs to review this line change, zone change, and then remand it to the selectmen for change to be done and approved at town meeting. Code enforcement officer and I are in concurrence with it. Walk the site. You're welcome to walk the site yourself right now, although I think it'll be tough to find the wetlands.
I don't understand the legal issue, because what you're saying is, which is what I assumed we needed to do, is to make a determination on the findings and then remand the selectmen and town meeting makes a decision.
Right.
So what is the legal issue? I don't understand that part of it.
Well, the only legal issue is that actually this is, the way our ordinance is written, in one section it says code enforcement officer determines where it is on the field. And the other section of our ordinance, which deals with land use map, says no land use map can be changed without a vote of the town meeting.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's the legal issue there. So we have to, she wants us to take this to town meeting, not because she thinks that the process is, you know, that the townspeople need to do this, but because we want to avoid any kind of challenge.
However,
So the ordinance is basically, the ordinance is in conflict with our town charter.
but what this zone was instituted by the state, though, wasn't it?
No, I've tracked this down. This is a very, very sordid history on this. This zone was implemented by us in accordance with code, with the shoreline zone. And I think we did it back in the, actually in the 90s.
But in
This zone,
accordance with state mandate, right?
it was in accordance with the National Wetlands Inventory map for that area.
But I think what John's asking is that there was a state shoreland zoning law
Right.
that required communities to do something.
Yeah,
And we chose to draw up a map
yeah.
to show shoreline boundaries.
And our shoreline boundaries were based in this area on the National Wetlands
Right.
Inventory. There's
Right,
no
I
flues-
remember that.
You remember that? Okay, and those who've worked with that know they're notoriously inaccurate.
Right.
And so Bud had
Which is
challenged.
why we put that little clause in there about the
Exactly,
code enforcement officer.
exactly. That the code enforcement officer determined that the boundaries are really where the field conditions exist.
Right.
Those shall prevail. She agrees with us that that is completely solid, that the code enforcement officer can make that determination. However, she feels that because also the other section of the ordinance that says that no zoning map shall be changed permanently without a vote by the townspeople at town meeting, that we have to take this to town meeting. Now, yeah.
Talk about splitting hairs, because
Yeah.
in my mind, the map was accepted at town meeting with the caveat that the code enforcement officer could determine field conditions.
At that time, that language is not in there. We put that in.
It was not.
No, we put that in 2010.
Okay, that would make a difference.
Yeah, we did it in 2010, when we did that revision, remember? We
Yeah.
did the hurry up revision?
I thought we had it in right from the beginning.
No, it didn't.
So, can I, just to help me out here, so we still need to move forward with this, wherever the lines are, go to town meeting and be
Well,
approved. But at the same time though, Bud can move forward because it's been determined in the field. It has to be, both have to agree?
Both
not-
have to agree.
So that clause means nothing then, about,
About the
About
code
the
enforcement
code
officer,
enforcement.
not according to our legal counsel,
Yeah.
right?
oh, I thought,
But she
It's one or the
agrees
other.
with it,
We
she
gotta-
thinks
we
it is,
gotta-
but there's a conflict between two
Right.
sections of the ordinance, you know, and she's saying, to be safe, do both.
It's the
Right.
select,
Do both.
we say it's gotta go to the selectmen, it's gotta go to the town meeting. That's a little bit higher than having a code enforcement
yeah,
officer.
which,
And I agree,
Which-
she's just being safe.
Yeah.
which makes sense.
So is
But
there a
should
way
it
we
help
can
protect-
fix the language while we're at it?
The only way we could do that would be if we were to change the zoning ordinance, so in the issue of a shoreline zoning boundary determined in the field, that doesn't have to go to town meeting. We could try that. That would be a way of fixing it. So there would be consistency between what the shoreline zoning says and what the, you know, what the land use map language is. The only issue is that then you're putting all your power in the hands of the code enforcement
Right,
officer.
Well, do you have to do it that way?
Well,
Or
the
could
other way
you
you
have
could
it
do
go
it is you
to
could do it by
select-
review by planning board. or something
Well,
like that.
about the selectmen, which would get ample public notice and things like that. If it was contentious enough, I mean, I don't necessarily know the details of Bud's, but there could be a project that came into town that was looking to change a zone and was contentious that you know, wanna make sure, the town would wanna make sure there was adequate public notice for comment
But,
in
Yeah.
case there was an issue.
well, maybe for comment, but if you're basing this on field conditions, theoretically, all you need to do is verify that the reported field conditions are accurate.
Yeah,
And then they either fit or they don't,
But there,
right?
you can take 3 different wetland scientists and come up with 3 different wetlands boundaries.
I'd rather not have a code enforcement officer,
Be
whoever it will be,
Right.
to override or to make that call, without some.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree that it shouldn't just be code enforcement, but, so maybe it's up to you as chairman, but I think this might be an issue we wanna discuss. Is there a better way to do this?
Well, my concern is the town attorney has said there's this lower court ruling that says you have to abide by the map. And we've already taken a precedent where we agree with that ruling. If we're gonna agree with the ruling on one side, we better agree with the ruling on the
Well,
other side.
I'm
So
not
I'm-
saying for this case, I'm saying going forward, can we fix this?
Going, you know, if I could reach into my back pocket and pull out the answer, I'd say, let's just, what does the state say the shoreline zoning is? And just adopt that?
Oh,
And
no
forget
way.
making all of these other changes?
No way.
Yeah, I know, it's not gonna, I just said if I could do
No way what the
that.
state says, I don't know their ass from their elbow.
Well, that's
So-
obvious, have you seen anything come out of Augusta
Right.
that they don't? But for our purposes, I think we need to recommend that the map be changed, and that has to go through town meeting
For this case.
for this
yeah.
particular
I think-
case.
I would agree with that.
And I'm sort of figuring out some way to be able to change the map all the time, which our ordinance does not let us do.
And I don't think it should, because wildlife habitat, bird feeding, deer wintering changes,
Right.
Yep.
okay, over time. So I don't think the process is broken, other than having this caveat that allows the code enforcement to make the final determination. I think the I think the way that could be written is simply to have the code enforcement officer verify for the board and with the town planner that the conditions are X at X time. The board makes the determination if we want to change the zone, if it should go to town meeting, and it should go to town,
Yep.
for every zone.
Well, the
And
town
I-
meeting
I
is
agree
kind of
with
a high hurdle, that's really what I'm thinking about.
I don't think it is a high
There's
hurdle.
nobody there.
I don't think it's a high hurdle.
Yeah, I think for this type of item, it's an automatic. This
biggest
isn't-
question, I
It's
don't-
not controversial at all.
The only concern with me with town meeting is that it occurs once a year.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's the problem.
So if somebody, you know, in certain circumstance, you wanna do something, and, you know, unless we call special town meetings, and we haven't been in the habit of doing that.
What we're doing is sending this to the selectmen to include on the warrant. If they decide that they wanna have a special town meeting, that's up to them. We're just saying, put this on the warrant for the next town meeting. And if the applicant or whomever said, has enough juice with the selectmen, or there's enough of a valid reason to do so, let
If
them
there's
call a
some
special,
If there's some huge benefit to the town,
let
they
them
would
call the
call
meeting.
Let them call it.
They would call the special
That's
town
right.
meeting to say, hey, this is in our best interest. This is in, this particular one is in Bud's best interest.
Yep.
Not that I'm against it, but I think our role, and I'm just talking me, my opinion, is that our role is to look at the town and to act on behalf of the townspeople and saying, hey, you should stay in control.
So
You know, don't you?
let me ask this, from our point tonight, is there anything we need to do, or can we act on this and send it to the selectmen?
I would have more questions for the
Okay.
town
What-
planner.
Yeah, and that's what I wanna find out. If we've got a bunch of other stuff to go through, let's go through it,
And then see,
and there's the town planner.
yeah, I agree.
Before we move on to this, in the big picture, how many different properties would be affected by shoreline protection? I think along the Kennebunk River is pretty fixed.
It's not even a river there, right, what he's talking about.
It's
So,
just
but,
not-
oh, I know,
There's
but
not.
outside, but as far as shoreline protection zones, this is it, isn't it?
No.
No. No, not at all. We have quite a few.
Along the river,
Along the river, we have a
Brimstone.
number of inland wetlands in excess of 10 acres. We have we have two very large wetlands of over 200 acres.
oh, okay.
We have
So
some
there
large,
could be-
we have some
there could be other sites that-
substantial, and then we have stream protection districts that go along all of our major streams. So, I mean, it's not a
Okay.
small amount of, we do not have massive, huge, we don't have Scarborough Marsh,
Yeah.
but we do have some significant wetlands. And I think, if I may, Mr. Chair, the issue in this, what we usually find in dealing with these kinds of map boundaries is a scale issue. In many cases, the scale issue is that the map shows the boundary to be, you know, in a certain location, and if you actually scale it off, the line of the boundary line is 100 feet wide on the map. So where is that on the ground? We usually have situations in which we find that, you know, that if we were to scale it off the map, the boundary's here, but it's actually, field conditions, it's 20 feet over here, or it's 50 feet over there, it's 100 feet over there. That's why we have that provision that field conditions exist, because the scale of our map is so large that the amount of error in it is phenomenal. And we cannot correct down to 10 feet in every situation and go to town meeting. That'll be just a huge burden on the property owner. In Bud's case, Bud is eliminating a huge section of what is considered to be resource protection district, and much of it is going back into shoreline overlay district, which is a downgrading of the area. And that's mainly because of, as I said, a very rough interpretation of where the wetland boundaries were in the 1995 National Inland Wetlands Inventory, in which there's a gross overestimation of the amount of wetlands in that particular area. If you go out there, you'll find that there's huge, large tracts of land out there that are upland that are considered to be.
Wasn't it also deer wintering area that?
No, we determined that it wasn't. We
Right.
picked it apart. We originally thought it was, And we picked it apart and picked it apart, and I went to Augusta, and I got the mapping, and I did a forensic back analysis of the mapping, and came to the conclusion, it was an old inland wetlands map, and it was not deer wintering yards. So Bud's situation, and that's where I told this, I think I reported to this board, that Bud, there was no deer wintering yard on Bud's land that IF&W had identified, and they corroborated, Gray Labs corroborated that in the letter, if you recall.
Right, but I thought that was part of the reason the boundaries were drawn the way they were, because they thought.
That's what I thought it was too, but it
Right.
wasn't. It was based strictly on this national wetlands inventory map, that's what I found out.
But our,
And then a field investigation showed that it was grossly in error.
our determination was, when we changed the regulation, and Dave had it written, and I was just gonna go get it, was that the purpose was for deer wintering and bird habitat.
Right.
And that was the question to you, we keep talking about the deer, but there's all sorts of potential here. I don't know, I haven't been out there, you have been out there. The bird habitat clause, do you have that?
Oh, the wading bird habitat?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be in section, hold on, 6.4, I think it
Yeah.
is, 6.5. 6.4.
Special provision, we're going to see.
Yeah, you'll find that on 6.4D1A, which is page 41 of your ordinance. And what it says is, this is the establishment of districts, resource protection district, this is the definition. Areas within 250 feet horizontal distance of the upland edge of all resource wetlands as defined herein, including deer wintering areas, waterfowl and wading bird habitats, including nesting and feeding areas, and shorebird nesting and feeding and staging areas.
And you guys ruled all that out in your walk, right, along with the deer wintering?
It was basically, yeah, it was based on the fact that the wetlands out there, what would be considered to be waterfowl, wading bird habitats and nesting areas, would be areas with an emergent marsh area. Wading birds were gonna be Britons and great blue herons and the like, mallards, black ducks, etc. They need to have direct access to water, and in fact, black and mallards depend on being in the emergent vegetation. Usually the pickle would be at the very worst in the typha, the cattails. And it made it easy because that type of vegetative community ended. It came to an abrupt edge, very identifiable in the field, not so identifiable in those horrible maps. But it became very clear, and then it went into a forested upland, so there was a distinct edge. I said, well, that's not wading bird habitat. Good place for beaver to pull some trees out, which they had been doing, by the way. And the outlet from Brimstone has been dammed. But we did not find any of these areas what I would consider to be adequate habitat for those purposes, outside of the line that Al Frick showed. So it's a real distinct line. Then you go over this hump, it's an esker, it's sort of like a small esker. You go over, and then there's another wetlands on the other side, which is less than 10 acres. So it constitutes, and that's emergent, and it's not emergent, it's a mixture, it's a shrub swamp. It's got emergent vegetation, it also has a lot of alders in it, speckled alders. And so it wasn't really the best kind of wading bird habitat, but it certainly qualified for shoreline overlay. So you've got this esker of dry land between the two that separates them.
So Chad, are there any clearer maps to look at? 'Cause
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is,
I can't even
you
tell
can't
what
even
I'm looking
pick it
at.
out. I know.
Yeah, the map did me
It
no
was
good at
a
all.
nighttime map.
No, it was a very clear
Night
map. I mean,
satellite.
Al does halfway decent maps, this is a
Yeah.
horrible map.
I've got a red marker if you want.
I can go and pull out an old file of mine that has an earlier version of this if you want.
Didn't Bud give us another map? Didn't Bud give us any?
You saw the map, this is the same map, and
Oh,
I
is
asked
that
him
the
for
same
copies
map?
for you guys, and he sent me black and white copies. I'm sorry about that. But you want me to go, if you wanna take a second while you go through that, I can go and see if I can pull that whole file up.
But my real question goes to the 250 feet.
Right.
Are we encroaching on the 250 feet with the changes he's proposing?
What we're doing, yeah, the changes we're proposing here are reducing the resource protection district and classifying a lot of it as shoreline overlay district. So we're changing the classification of the wetland. The wetland, like most wetlands, goes through, you know,
But the,
a morphological change where you're gonna go from an emergent wetland of high value, which is going to be our shoreline overlay, our resource protection, to a lesser wildlife value, and that's our shoreline overlay district.
proposed
And then it goes
districts,
terrestrial
of both districts,
Yeah,
the shoreland zone and the resource protection zone have a 250 feet from.
right,
One is from the water's edge,
Right.
and one is from the,
water's edge.
marsh or water line or grass and whatever.
Right,
So they're both 250, but they're from different points.
right.
So when you say this is lesser, actually the resource protection, since it's further away from the water, it's not only the water, it's the grass and all of the other stuff, it's actually a higher.
Pretty much, well, it's pretty much the upland edge. It's the upland edge for the resource protection,
Well, it
because,
says 250 feet of
Right.
the upland edge.
yeah, so you go to the upland edge and then you go 250 feet back from that.
Yeah, where in shoreline overzone, it's just a high water mark.
And then after, and then, that's right, and then after that, then we're in the resource.
Then you go 200.
Then we're going another 250,
Yeah,
because we're in the shoreline overlay district, because we've got an estuary between and then we've got a smaller wetland that has less value and is not really a wading bird habitat.
But you have more allowed uses in the overlay district.
That's
than
why
the
he asked for it,
Resource
because
protection.
he can put residential
Right.
units in the overlay
Well, I
district.
understand.
Yeah, no, I know.
Provided
The
that it's
reason.
100 feet away from the resource, and that's why he's doing this, because he figured out that he can do that, and that's why Alfred was involved.
But with this change in the line, will it be more than 250 feet away from the resource wetlands?
Which one? The,
Who's
yes,
proposed?
yes, his proposed housing project, which is up on an esker, which is actually, Tom can't see it, this up here. You can see, this is, here's the edge, jeez, I'm sorry, guys, this is really
Put
bad.
it up on the
Figure
board.
out crap from
It
there.
is crap,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, it is, you're right. You see the white line?
Yeah.
The first white line? If you look in there, look very closely, you see a very serrated edge there? That is the upland edge of Brimstone Pond. That's not the upland edge of the water, because that's another line that's in, that's the upland edge of the wetlands.
Right.
Okay? So then what Frick did is he took that 250 foot, the white line is 250 feet from that upland edge, from the serrated line here, okay? And then, so this area is all the resource protection. And then you've got this change in this habitat here, and that's still wetland, but it's not, doesn't qualify as resource protection, it qualifies as shoreline overlay wetland. And then you got another, and that covers the whole area, it goes all the way off the property. But if you look at it from the upland edge of this, if you go back 100 feet, he's got a proposed cul-de-sac in here. His proposed house sites are 100 feet from the upland edge of the wetland there. So that's why he's making this proposal. If it didn't make any of those standards, he wouldn't be doing this, because it wouldn't matter. And it's only including his property, by the way.
Yeah,
This
right.
map is only on his
Yeah,
property.
yeah.
It's not on Boutette's property next door, and it's not on Du Bois' property over here.
Yeah.
There's a huge figure of resource protection that goes down Du Bois, but that has not been evaluated as of yet.
Yeah.
That would have to be done by them or us.
We're going the
Yeah,
other direction.
because
No,
they-
no, we're not changing anything on that side,
There's all
because
sorts of birds over there.
yeah.
Did they know how to ask him?
It's not their
That's
property,
where I'm
number
getting
one.
at, you know.
Number two, I have no assessment of it, and I'm not going to do work where I don't have to. I mean, can I put on my hip boots and go out and slog and start mapping this stuff? Sure, but the town's gonna have to pay.
The
for
reason
it.
why I ask is that if they come along in 3 months, then we have to kind of do the whole process.
That's right, and they'll wait another year.
Yep.
The next guys will wait another year, and yeah, so, I'm
Or
going to
until-
limit myself to the limits of this request. Otherwise, I'm gonna get into doing wetlands inventory for the town, and I don't think they want me
And
to
in
spend my time
15
on that.
years, we've had one request. for
Yeah,
short
right.
zoning.
Right.
Yeah, it's
So-
very
so it's-
unlikely.
It's not that, and I like the idea of the field verification, because of so many boundaries, such a poor map, I couldn't figure out any of those things and what was what. And that's why I said my questions were gonna be directed to you or to the code enforcement officer and determining those
What I
field
can do for you
conditions.
is I can require Bud to get a better, the map that was
Oh, yeah.
originally
I'd like-
submitted.
I'd like to do that
Yeah.
before I can make a decision.
That's
but
okay.
I need that.
That's okay, cause I'm gonna need, all I'm gonna do is make a few small changes on our 2000 scale map.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's gonna reflect this as best as I can.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be this accurate, cause I can't, I mean,
I know.
Well,
it's a tiny
and-
little change.
But I think if we recommend the change,
Mm-hmm.
if he comes back in for a project, then that should be reflective of whatever they found field conditions.
Right, they better coincide.
Right.
Yeah,
So he's-
you went exactly where my mind has been.
Yeah, he's,
You know,
he's
you
gonna
got-
have to field
There's another-
verify
There's another part of this.
boundaries
Again,
again.
for you guys,
Right.
because he'll be bringing a subdivision, and some of it will be family. So it may not be, looked at by you from a
5-year law.
family's, well, no, it's a family.
That's okay.
That's an exemption if you give it to your family members, but I think he's also looking at cutting out one in order to pay for it. But if not that, then private way, because this private way has more than 2 lots on it, so
And you're
it's not
prepared-
something you guys review that. And shoreline zoning is part of your review process.
I was gonna say, it's
No.
shoreland zone, and if there's a project, even if it's family, I think the
Yeah.
board sees it.
Now,
it-
with
all
all
Let me
this,
just see if I understand
It can.
correctly.
You can.
We want
It's within
him-
the zone, yes.
We want Bud to give us much better maps than what we have, so that we can look at this,
The color map.
the color.
Right,
That's
just,
right.
if he
Okay.
reduces several
How-
in color.
What do you think, 2 weeks for that?
Sure.
So let's.
You've got a busy agenda
And
next
you-
week,
and
and I think you
I
want
think, I think once we're a little bit clearer on that, so that when he comes in with a project, we have something to match that to. You know, I'm comfortable with almost any of it, as long as you guys have been out there.
No, I think.
Yeah, I've been out there twice. I've been out, Jim and I went out with Bud, and I went out with Al Frick.
when was spring,
Summer.
well, not recent.
End of summer, early fall. Yeah, it had to be fall.
Not
No,
snow time.
No, goodness gracious, no. I was wearing
You
orange
said
on a rainy.
recent. I
Well,
mean,
I'm, in geologic terms.
no, it's English terms.
So I think we'll just table this for 2 weeks until we can get that colored map.
I will
And then
tell
we can
Bud
look at it.
tomorrow to get us a bloody good map.
Okay.
Actually, I probably will tell Al, 'cause he's the one who'll print it off and say, Al,
Yeah.
I need 7 copies or 8 copies
Yeah.
of the color map. This is nonsense.
Or real map.
Of a real map.
The other thing is, with it's marked out, are these gonna be marked out on GPS? So they're trying, it's,
We can ask that. I can't relate the GPS to my map because my
no,
my
not,
zoning
I'm
map is a rubber sheet
I'm
map
not saying
anyways.
you, but I'm saying, for clarification purposes of future references
For
along the way.
enforcement
It would be
officer to
good.
verify.
It's a good idea, Marty, and I think the board can require that. That these lines that the GPS coordinates of these lines be provided to us. Actually, what would be best is give us the GPS coordinates and the disk of this map.
So
But I'd rather have the GPS coordinates, actually.
I'm-
I mean,
This
so
map
that
is
in the
a
future,
fantasy for all I know.
I mean,
Every
in the
couple
future,
hundred feet.
I think that would be probably be a good idea.
It's a good idea. I think it's an excellent.
Would you, if you get a chance, ask Leah, if we did that, if we got this with GPS coordinates, even because it's more precise than the big map, would that make her happy in terms of court cases?
It's not gonna make her happy unless we go to town.
We still have to.
It's
Oh,
on-
no, we're going to town meeting anyway, but I'm just curious, I mean, if she had to defend something, instead of looking at the big map, if we were able to say, here were the GPS coordinates, that the planning board based their approval on.
Has to match.
Absolutely, and you know, that's the way we do it actually in the field.
Yeah,
When there's a
that's-
dispute, we actually do it by survey. I mean, Al didn't do a survey. His is based on GPS. And,
Yeah,
so I can get those coordinates from him. But actually, I don't, the line that he drew by just distance from this
Yeah,
edge.
right.
Of course
And
he
I
did.
will guarantee you, there's not GPS coordinates on that line.
But there should.
There should
There
be.
should be.
Yeah,
Marty
there
brings
should
up a
be.
very
And
good
we
point.
would
We
like
should
that.
have that, we would like those, so Al, you have a
And again.
job opportunity.
Again, if projects delay 2 years, 3 years, conditions can change again. They ought to be aware of that.
And we
That's
still have
why-
yet to go over shoreline zoning, which our shoreline zoning is more restrictive in the state. right?
On this map, could you tell, does he show the, old line, or the existing line that
The
they're
existing line
proposing to
goes all the
eliminate?
way out, it's off the map.
It's off of his, it
off of
extends
his
beyond his property.
It extends beyond it. It extends on the next property. Actually, all of this property, if you look at that map there, you can see where the road comes in, there's a corner there, it extends beyond that corner. And that was the issue for him. He said, all of this property is in the resource protection, I can't use it. I said, that's right. Until you show us otherwise, that's what, you know, this is one of those situations where the map is the truth until you disprove it.
Guilty until proven
Guilt,
innocent.
it's French. It's
So
guilty
since-
until proven innocent.
So since this line extends past his property, when he changes it, he's changing the property line, he's changing the property conditions for somebody else.
Well, he's the owner of the annex parcel.
Oh, okay. No
He's
problem.
not changing
No.
a zoning line for somebody else. We are reflecting actual field conditions.
Okay.
And if the town had the money and wanted to get me a backpack, I'll go do this for the whole
Yeah.
town.
That's
Spend 2 years doing it.
That's okay.
No, I don't think it's cost effective.
Now,
Okay.
question for you, you said before about we stood by a map.
That is correct.
What are you referring to?
We had a map on that related to Mr. Fritz and the distance down. And we looked at it and said, that's the map, that's the line on the DB1 zone, and that's where we drew it, because that's what the map said. And we had determined that we were going to stay according to that map.
But on
And
that
it
case,
just,
that's why I'm asking the question.
okay,
Because on that, where it was proven that his agreement or anything else was written, so the map was wrong.
our contention at the meeting was that that was the way the map was drawn, and that's the way we were going to interpret it. And my contention, if we're gonna do it for one, we do it for everybody. That's my whole comment on it.
Yeah, in that situation, the map did not follow the description. There was disparity between the
There
two.
was.
And there was a large disparity. And in that case, Leah said, the court cases all say the map prevails. And that's what she's saying here too. She's saying the map prevails, you know, even though our description is that we're allowed to modify it based on field conditions. She's saying the map prevails until the town changes. So she's being very cautious, and I appreciate that. And I could explore with her, you know, how we could allow for a certain level of flexibility, because as I said, field conditions are, that map is a very, very, very large scale map. Small, meaning it's very small in actuality, you know,
I
very,
know.
very tiny things, where literally the boundary is about 100 feet wide. The boundary line is 100 feet wide in the real world. And consequently, and you can make modifications. I've argued with Jimmy and Al over, you know, 50-foot separation, and it's made a huge difference, you know, in the where the line is. Now, in that situation, that's so fine grained, I can't show that on that map. You know, it might be you know, 1 millimeter over from the town map, and the question is, we've got to have some flexibility to be able to adjust, you know, have a reasonable interpretation of the map in those cases.
So should
This
we-
is a big one. This is like 500 feet to 1,000 foot difference, and that's big. But usual field conditions are a matter of 100 feet or less.
So should we refer to any lines on, say, the shoreline zoning map as approximate?
I do.
Okay. And
Basically, what I
then-
wrote was that it's for illustrative purposes only, and that the line is determined by field conditions.
Right.
That's the way it's written. I think that's pretty standard in most communities. I didn't make that up. I don't think I did.
The
So,
map prevails, but.
but,
Yeah, and it's a.
Well,
it's
see,
a
that's a
See, it
problem.
makes sense to me.
Well, the map only prevails within its tolerance.
right, and that's the issue. I mean, what is a reasonable tolerance? What would the judge consider to be a
Right.
reasonable tolerance? Because if I'm 10 feet off of the scaling of the map in field conditions, we're gonna go to town meeting for that? We're gonna hold up a property owner for a year for that? No, come on. That's kind of
Maybe,
absurd.
maybe you're right, maybe Leah could give us some direction that would help us in that issue.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is with natural resource boundaries, the actual boundary can change over year to year, especially when you're talking about streams and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Streams and rivers.
Especially
So-
meandering ones.
Right.
On flat,
So I
flatter
mean,
turf.
we can denote something at one point in time, and 10 years later, somebody comes back in, and it's different.
Right, but that's what Leah's telling us about the map. If we denote it at point A, doesn't matter if it changes course. Doesn't make it, map A said it's over here. It would be nice to be able to look at it and say, well, yeah, it's not there anymore, it's 50 feet to the east. Let's
Well,
move it.
And that's
But
where I
that's
wanna
why
have
I
enough
said
of a
GPS.
caveat to say the map is, this is the approximate boundary,
Right.
but
Right.
prior to any kind of
Based on
development going on,
conditions as of
field
this
conditions
date.
need to be verified.
But that's why Leah could probably give us
Yeah.
the legal terms to be
Right.
able to do that.
Because we could have the opposite problem. We could have the problem where we actually have a resource protection condition that we haven't mapped out.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it exists, and that happened. And a perfect example of that are these vernal pools.
Right.
We didn't discover them, DEP discovered them. And they regulate them to a higher degree than we do. In fact, I don't think vernal pools are even listed in the standard shoreline overlay, shoreline zoning. That's almost something that
And it's in a
DEP.
special-
Yeah, well, DEP has pretty much reserved that for their own regulation.
Okay, so in terms of this, we'll table it for the next 2 weeks, till we get the map. You've got some information that you can ask Leah about, see what we can do from that point
Talk
of
to
view.
the applicant.
Talk to the applicant, and then,
Well, regarding the GPS idea, I think that
that's
you guys
a
should,
great idea.
you guys should inquire.
Do we
I would like the board to ask that of the applicant as one of the conditions.
need a motion for that? You guys-
No, you're not gonna begin action
We'll
right now.
Okay.
Do it next week.
We're not gonna do that.
Okay. Yeah, because that's a great idea. that we
Yes.
had.
Because we've talked about GPS plots on
They're only as good
surveys and everything
as
else,
reliable as the
Yeah.
honesty
And this
of the guy
is-
designing them.
a basically glorified survey.
Then we can drop it right into the text, the town map.
That's right.
As long as
Okay.
we're on, you know, a large scale, and remember, GPS has a tolerance too, that's much bigger than a survey tolerance. You know? We're talking hundreds of inches in surveys, and GPS, we can talk meters,
Yeah.
so, that's one thing to remember. So, it depends how many
Well, why I'm saying,
How many
why I'm
satellites?
saying that also is because turn around, how property lines or stakes have been moved or whatever else not. This is at least giving it a pinpoint instead of just pulling it out of the air.
Good point, yep, I agree.
No, and I
like
think
the
from
idea.
from a shoreline, from a larger scale zoning map standpoint, it would be adequate.
Yeah, but it'd be,
Yeah.
When we get into
be too
somebody
costly.
looking to go within feet of a hard setback line, yeah, then we look to get it surveyed.
We have to, yeah, because in many cases,
Right.
you know, that line is, we argue for over feet on those lines many times.
Okay. Let's
Depending
move
on
on
vegetation
and
and so,
Okay.
look at ARD.
yeah.
The last I remember, we had left off with signs. We had looked at
Yeah.
the other information. We had taken out the density bonuses in a mixed-use district. We had made some adjustments to setbacks, and we had covered all of the permitted and conditional uses.
I sent you the revised version, right?
Yes, revised version February 6th. So let's take a look at the signs.
So which one do we wanna look at, existing standards?
Well, let's,
I have February 19th.
Well, there's a 219 and a 212, we have existing
I have a
standards.
260, which is.
You're talking about the
I'm
signs
talking,
within
yeah, I was, I'm
the
sorry,
ARD.
I was talking about the signs within the ARD district.
Yeah.
My fault, that wasn't clear.
We're,
Yeah, but there's a spaces.
That was it.
This is dated February 6th.
Yes, it's February sixth, everybody got one?
no,
Okay.
I wasn't there.
February 12th, was one standard, and then February
I think I sent, did I send this out? I got a hard copy. Anybody else? Anybody else have a six?
Well, you're gonna
I know
have to
why, I know
share.
why I didn't, because we had,
Hold it, let me get one.
we all needed a new current one.
No, I got, I thought I sent it out, didn't I?
You sent out February 6th.
Yeah.
That's what I.
Well, I have an older one, I have an older version of that for somebody. We're dealing just with signs, so it doesn't have the crossouts from that meeting, John. Remember we did all the crossouts? It doesn't have that, so we'll just concentrate on the signs. That's signs is too.
$50 black and white printer.
Well, this is permitted, oh, yeah.
well,
These look vaguely familiar. Have I seen these before?
Yeah, because of the DB2 district.
That's what I.
That's what you asked.
Okay, these are the same sign standards that we had in DB2.
no.
Yeah, the board asked, the chair asked me to do that too. Don't invent something new, use something we've already used. I went,
Yeah,
okay,
because
then
if
do it
we've
is.
got something that we've already, that we think is appropriate, why reinvent it?
Why then if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, why is one sign only 8 feet high and these are 15?
I don't know.
It's a different, because the 8-foot ones are in the DB1 and the 15 are in the DB2s.
And your 8-foot sign isn't surviving on Route 1 today. Drive down and see it.
You could have a 15-foot sign that wouldn't survive
Well-
Route 1 today.
No, it's
Isn't
kind of
the-
being buried in snow, Marty.
Isn't the 8-foot sign just a projecting sign on
No, it's all
No.
signs.
Post signs.
It was
Post
post
signs.
signs.
the area by sign type?
That's why
Maximum height 15 feet, 15 feet.
Right.
So it can be 15 feet high.
It can in this one because that's the DB2.
And we're not in DB2, we're in the ARD district.
We are, but these were the standards that came from the DB2.
Right. Okay.
I had just asked him to give us the DB2 because we've already developed the standard, so we should, I mean, if we look at DB1 or we look at DB2 and use that standard.
Okay. This is ARD district,
Correct,
version 4.
correct.
Maximum height 15 feet. You
Correct.
guys are saying the maximum height is 8 feet.
No.
No, Marty was
Marty
saying
was-
maximum height in DB1 is 8
He
feet.
was recalling, I believe, from
Yeah.
the DB1
Right.
discussion we had.
and like I says,
I thought these, you just said these came from the.
No, these came from DB2.
So really confusing.
Well, if we just consider it to be the ARD sign district, we won't be confused. Okay, so it doesn't matter where it comes from, this is what we're proposing for ARD. Unless you guys want, and you guys are free to change this in any way, shape, or form.
why, it's like moving in town, you don't know where you're gonna live. You keep changing the names and the zones all over the place.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The ARD district was what the comp planning committee told us.
But,
Yeah, well,
so we're saying the bigger signs allowed in the DB2 than in the DB1.
correct. Yeah,
And DB1 is along the roadway.
DB1 is right there on Route 1, yep.
This one has a higher speed limit.
What is it?
65,
It's what? No.
from what I can tell it is. I
And
try to
they-
And
pass
that's how
it every
fast they
day.
drive.
What's supposed to be?
It's only 45,
Yeah, I
but
think
that's how
it's-
fast.
Guess
a
what?
lot of-
Well,
And Route 1 is what?
it's 50 down to 40, down to 35.
In the ARD?
Yeah, it's 50 all the way.
No,
No,
no, it's
Oh,
not.
35,
transitions.
35 is at the Biddeford line.
35 is at the Bedford line.
It's 40
40
is
going
40.
through Tri-Town.
Right.
It's 50 just before the curve coming up by where the old farmhouse was. And then it goes out to the end.
Right, when we
50
cross,
all the
when
way
we
from
cross the
there.
Biddeford line, it's 40. When we go just past New Road and Hollies, as you start up, it goes to 45, and then at the top of the hill, it goes to 50. And it stays at 50
all the
until
way
you get to Lyman, when it jumps up to 55 on the other side of
on the other side
35.
of Jackson.
Right, the other side of Jackson Corner, it
So
jumps up
most of
to,
this zone is
45, 50.
45.
Most of it's 50.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
50,
Yeah,
40.
I was
we
gonna
gotta go by
say
posting.
theoretically.
Well,
You drive it every
40
day,
where,
it's not
40 where
50.
this district is.
It's a death.
Okay.
But we were also allowing a 100,000 square foot piece of property here.
And it boils down to, again, something that Jamie had brought up, and we've actually got two districts within one here. Question is, does this fit the second district that you guys were contemplating? You had one that was more residential character, and you were concerned about that. And that's from the Biddeford line to about,
New Road.
yeah, maybe a little past the road, you know, maybe to,
Wait a minute, but only a couple of lots by it.
Rocky Lane, you know, and then after that, then it changes dramatically.
Depends on what side of the road you're on.
But there is a bit of discrepancy though between what we're doing DB1, DB2, and what we're doing here in terms of sign sizes and all of that.
Yep.
If you're doing 15 feet in ARD, that can be right up to the road, and even in that residential section, that doesn't jive at all with what you did, or we did in DB1, DB2.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. Well, DB2, imagine
DB2, well, but the rationale was that it was set back, and so you needed bigger signs, but,
But the DB2, the only way to see the signs is to get back.
right, to get back in there,
Okay.
and, you know,
So
Yeah.
should we change it down?
No.
uh,
I mean,
Problem
that's,
is that,
No.
that becomes the question.
Well, I think if you drive down these roads, and we all have, you don't see too many signs unless it's a Champions and Champion, you know, that was on that tall pole. It's only got a little short stack, and it looks like a short sign now. I mean,
Right.
holy cow, I mean, this winter, it's an eye opener, I don't know.
Yeah, but that, I mean, it's a valid point. I mean, granted, everybody goes way too fast up there, but they go way too fast on Route 1, which is one of the reasons I think that we had originally said, let's have smaller signs, because we want people to slow down in that area, and one of the
No.
ways to do that
We're also moving the
is to move
building
the
setback much
buildings
closer.
closer.
No,
Which-
because you want it so you have your street board signs along the Route 1, so that you're gonna have your fancy sidewalks, or whatever. And that never is gonna happen.
Which leads me back to the point, if we're talking about having 8-foot signs in the DB1 because we're moving the buildings closer to the road, do we want 15-foot signs here? These buildings are already on the road.
some of them.
Some of them are a great deal distance back.
Well, you can do what
I
you
mean, I
need.
think our front yard setbacks are sitting at 40 and 40 feet for non-residential. I personally don't have an issue with 15.
Yeah,
I've
but
been through
I don't
that.
have
I mean, it's a quasi highway corridor.
I would venture, it's not a Napa store, what is the one that's up there on 111? The
Where?
auto dealer?
Auto dealer?
Oh, not the auto
No,
dealer, the
mine-
auto repair place.
Curlew.
Curls.
Oh, okay.
And then,
His sign's already 15 feet up.
yeah, I know, well, see, yeah, and it's a nice sign.
It
Right,
is, it's
that's
a very
right.
nice sign.
It's like if you go, if you look, I don't know, I've been a proponent for colors on pretty well. They've been down, but if you're a business, those are the signs that show out nice. And if you're gonna go to that expense to put it up there, usually it's a nice sign.
Yeah.
You go down, I know we're getting into a little bit of Bedford, but Aquaviva and then Neil's Motors across,
Yep.
those are all great signs. But if you go down through and you look at the smaller signs, you don't see some of them anymore. The doctors, any that are in by the buildings, they're almost gone.
They're small signs, they're tiny signs.
Yeah. So I'm not,
It's not the height, it's the
my
size.
thought process wasn't to this 15-foot here being wrong, it was more to the DB.
Yeah, the consistency or the
Yeah,
inconsistency.
because your comment once before, if we're looking at business districts in all of these. And why, and I know we're trying to be consistent to the areas that we're in, and we said, hey, each one is gonna be a little different. This area is really somewhat different because we've got almost 3 different kinds of zones and potentials. You like the idea of kind of having one standard, even if it's somewhere in between. I mean, I'm not a proponent for, well, I don't know, though. I like TMC, I like Champion, I like, those ones show out.
Yeah, it's,
So,
you know,
I don't know, I'll leave it to the board, I'm not against the 15 feet for the ARD and I'll be quiet.
Bob, you're right, you can make a good argument to say, it should be the same height, because we're asking the same thing. We want you up close to the road, and if you're up close to the road, why should you have 8 feet in one place and 15 in another?
And they're for the same thing, they're for
They're
business.
for businesses, so, you raise a valid point, and, so the question becomes, do we leave it at 15 feet? Do we change it? Do we change it in the DB1? But I really don't wanna reopen
We're on
that
the
whole
ARD,
hash.
let's stay on the ARD.
I don't wanna
We're not
reopen
going back
that
to
whole
DB one
thing.
at this time, gentlemen, come on. We've got no time left, we've gotta get something before the taxpayers. It's been 3 years, let's stop doing circles, we're dealing with ARD. Excuse me for being brusque about this, but let's focus on ARD right now, get this done, because we still haven't brought anything to the taxpayers yet.
Yeah, but 3 years ago, ARD wasn't even around.
Well, that's okay, it is now, Marty, so we'll work on that one. So what do you think? Do you think 15 feet is good? I'm fine with 15 feet.
I have no
Well,
problem.
we're not gonna distinguish at all between the residential areas.
No.
You want 15 feet in a residential area, you didn't want it in DB1, or we didn't want it in DB1.
But how do we
I think
say
given-
what's residential,
Yeah, I
what's
think
not?
given the nature right
Yeah.
up through there, I don't see 15 feet as a hugely excessively tall sign. So,
Many may choose not to go that high.
Right.
Anyways.
it just gives you the maximum. I would see if you had a smaller business right up along
Well,
that first part of
We
111.
need to leave open for those
This is
big
where we get
developments.
into trouble, because we were so bent on, the rural character, preserving the small village look and all of that on DB1. But now here we have the same kind of situation on that eastern end of Route 111, and we don't care. So,
I don't know if we don't
Well,
care,
it's-
but
I don't
how do
think
we?
it's fair to say that we don't care. We were looking at DB1 and we were planning a downtown. For lack of a better term, we were planning a downtown.
Trying to.
And so it's different than looking at Route 111, which we are not planning a downtown, we are planning a business
commercial zone.
district, a commercial zone for it to go through.
well, I didn't get the impression we were planning a downtown in DB1. We were planning a villagey looking kind of
Okay.
scenario, sort of to compete with Kennybunk.
And, but we're not
DB,
doing that.
downtown
Downtown
business.
Business District
I'm
1.
sorry you didn't get that impression, John.
It's not downtown.
But, okay, because we were planning more of a smaller feel of a community similar to what Kennybunk had. That's not what we're planning over here on 111. We were looking at doing a business district as opposed to these smaller.
The the only reason why I
Okay,
would
that's
side
how
with you,
confuses
John.
what we're trying to do.
The only reason why I'd side with you, John, and I did the last meeting, questioning this, is the comp plan is saying that this area needs to retain the neighborhood district.
Yeah, the mixed use neighborhood.
Mixed use,
small.
and we're kind of making it so that it's the greatest use of your county can be here. You know, we can be another Bedford Crossing right
Unless we break that district up into two separate districts, there's no way we're gonna.
Right.
Yeah.
We gotta do something that's going to benefit the largest amount of that district. Otherwise, we're gonna have to split it in half someplace.
I mean, and signage wise, at Bedford Crossing, it's well in excess of 15.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
30 feet.
Right, I
But
mean,
what did you
Thirty-
say, Richard, to benefit the largest portion of the district?
The biggest portion of that
Are
district
you
is not a
talking
res-
geographically or
Yes.
population?
No, geographically. Geographically, the largest portion of that district is to the west
Yeah,
of New
no
Road.
kidding, but there's hardly anybody there.
That's
Very
true.
few properties also,
Right.
so, most of the properties are small and on the east, south side.
Right.
And they're all, most of them have homes, and there's some businesses sprinkled in there.
Right.
The ones that are large, are just open, there's no development, except for maybe, Labby's, there's something going on there, but there's some big open vacant lots on there.
Yeah,
20,
there is.
30 acres. And so this
Yeah,
is,
it just-
this is our opportunity to get some great business
It just
development.
seems like we're completely all of a sudden changing our approach, you know?
Yeah.
At one point, we're trying to do this small villagey stuff, and the other part we're saying,
but I don't agree with that,
It's a
John. I
different
mean,
area.
because we've got, what did we decided on, unlimited building size? That's not a small villagey approach.
no, but we decided that, at least we were talking about that last time in terms of the larger lots.
Right.
Provided you had the space for it to do it.
Exactly, and if we're going to, if you're gonna allow for that type of size of building, we're not going into a small villagey setting comparable to DB1. Or what
But
the
we would
intent of
only
DB1
allow
was.
for it if the lot size
Well, sure.
allowed it,
Well-
right? But when you're talking signage here, and you're talking huge signs, and we're not saying you can, you know, they have to be only on large lots.
But I don't think
We're not talking
what
about
we're
huge
having here
signs.
is huge signs.
Well, they were huge
I
for
mean, it's a
DB1.
5 by 8,
We have a 40 square foot sign,
Right.
maximum size area for a single occupancy lot. For multiple occupancy, it's 25 square feet per business.
Right.
Those are not large signs. They're not even close to large signs.
But they were for DB1, is what I'm saying. And we have a DB1-like situation.
But we don't have
One
a
end.
DB1-like situation there. I don't even see at the one end.
Yeah,
I don't see it.
at the east end.
I don't see it that way. I don't see where we have a DB1-like situation there.
There's not gonna be a whole bunch of stuff in there.
I mean, I see that we've got more of a auto corridor
Yeah.
area than what we were trying to promote in the DB1.
We've got 3 auto businesses right there on the town line. We've got Aquaviva, we've got Neal's, and then we've got the guy that sells other people's cars and fixes cars. Yeah, I don't know what it, with the storage facility behind it.
The repair place is not, the only part of that is, of the storage unit is in a rental.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
Neal's is in Bedford,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's right there. at
They're
that
right on the
spot.
line.
Yeah.
So I don't see, I honestly don't see that as, I see the DB1, I see the Townhouse Corner
Oh,
District, I
custom
see the
collision.
Gateway, thank you. I see the Gateway District, those are the small, quaint villagey kinds of areas. I don't see this that way. And I don't think we can have every business area in town be a small, quaint, kind of a place. We've got to allow other kinds of businesses. And we can regulate them with design standards on buildings, and we can do other stuff. But I don't think we want these quaint little pockets floating around. Just my opinion.
Okay, there you go. There's your map.
Well,
Biddeford.
you're trying to protect rural character.
If we want to protect rural character, we do away with business completely, and we say you can have a farm.
10 acre
That's
zoning.
not how rural character
Yeah,
works.
they ain't doing acres,
Yeah.
There you go. Well, we want rural character, 10 acre zoning. No, we're not gonna have that. Okay, well,
That's right.
okay.
Well, you know, we'll fight that one.
10 acre, why only 10 acres?
Fine, 20 acre.
If you've got.
100.
40
Auburn does-
if you-
Auburn
if
does
you've
10
got-
and 20
If you've got
acres.
20 acres or more, you're gonna
Do
tell
whatever the
people,
hell you want.
oh, it's their land. I don't have it.
We should get rid of zoning.
Well, you know,
Force fences.
when I look at that,
Enforce.
that eastern end, and you look at the parcel sizes and the residential uses there, you know, I see a little villagey area. The only thing that spoils it is Route 111. You know, I came home just yesterday, came off the turnpike, and we were like bumper to bumper all the way to Arundel. It was disgusting. It used to be like that in New Jersey. Oy.
John, I can understand how you see that area as the potential for a quaint little village. I don't, because I keep having to try to get across 111.
Well, yeah,
And no matter where it's at,
but
which
we
way
say
you try
it
to go.
doesn't work because the traffic is too fast, but no way is the traffic too fast.
It's not fast, there's too much of it.
Right, so it's perfect.
Unless you're trying to get onto the road.
Yeah, unless you're trying to get onto 111, in which case it's not gonna
Oh,
happen.
yeah, I know.
There have been times I've been tempted to turn right onto 111 and turn around in Bob's driveway.
There's almost,
There's times when I did and just went around the back way.
Yeah,
along 111, from New Road to the other, with, no, to the east. Right across the road, we have the huge, I don't know what that is, for the Agway or whatever.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, right.
Agway. We have Holly's, which is, I know there's an exclusion because it's a gas station, but they have the huge sign. The next one going down would be Bob's on right, he's got a small sign, and then forward's got another big sign. So there's one small sign up there. The storage one is probably about 12 feet, 15 feet, somewhere in there. So I don't know. There isn't any, the
How
storage
tall
area
is the Holly sign?
it's gotta be up there.
I would say that's. gotta be
Standard
about
gas
20
station
feet.
size height.
What is
What is-
standard?
What you're saying, this is at least 25 feet. Because you gotta be able
Yeah,
to see
30.
it. 25, 30
yeah,
feet,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's about 30 feet, I agree. And that's half, this would be half of that. And with the potential, and again, if you're looking, and I kind of agree with you, you're looking at wanting to try to attract some big businesses. I don't know, big business is gonna come, yeah, well, here, bring us your $1 million project, we can get an 8-foot sign.
You know, actually, if you look at all the big businesses like IDEX and so forth in Eisenhower Park, they're all like 8, 10-foot signs at the most. In fact, some of them are less than that.
On
Yeah, that
that,
type of business.
That kind of
Right,
business,
that
a
type of
major
business.
business has just a
Yep.
simple logo.
Yep.
They don't
back,
spend money on it.
yeah, back by their buildings in the back, but there's usually a huge sign getting you into the complex.
No, usually there's an address.
But that just leads to the question of how much is too much? I mean, do we think that a 40-square-foot sign is enough?
It's see,
Or
big
should they be
signs,
bigger?
big signs are for retail.
Yep.
Big signs are not for, you know, the high-end businesses
They are.
like IX and all of that.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're trying to attract retail. Is that it? Is that what you want?
I don't agree with that these signs are looking to attract retail,
Well,
by any means. I think, I mean, the Bedford Crossing signs would not fit into these limitations at all.
no, that's big retail, right?
That's
That's
not,
big
that's,
box,
that's,
they have very big standards, yeah.
I think we'll.
Although you can look at some of those signs, and if you look at all those pictures, you've got a binder full of them.
Yep.
You see like Shaw's has signs this big
Yeah.
to get into the place, you know? Has basically half a sheet of plywood for size. It all depends. Depends what they're trying to do. Best Buy has a certain image because they go in a certain place. They have sign size because they go in a certain place, which is always into a big mall or into a
Right.
big shopping center. That's their MO, that's what they go for. I don't think we're gonna get that here. If we get it, terrific. I mean, is that what you, we're going we're going 180 from where we are right now. Right now, we have businesses in this area that can't be more than 15,000 square feet, period. Anything, warehouse, retail, we're never gonna get any retail.
And their sign size is what? Currently, right now in that community commercial north?
Yeah, I think you can get 60 feet, 60 square feet.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a big increase.
Your phone wants to see.
no, and that's where I see this as a good compromise between the two sub-districts of this area. You know, you've got some allowance for a little bit bigger, without going hog wild retail, but yet you're not going so big in the eastern part of it that I think you'd be overwhelming the neighborhood.
David, in terms of sheets of plywood, 4x8 sheet of plywood, it's 32 square feet. That's not a small area, signage. And what are we doing, 40? That's just for the post sign.
Right.
That's not including the signage on the building.
No, that is attached signage, projecting wall signs, 40 square feet.
For everything?
For a single occupancy lot, the maximum area is 40. For
Yeah.
multiple, it's 25 per business.
They can also have some one.
But that's attached signage.
Yeah, that's attached.
You're still you're gonna have post signs, which are also 40 square feet, or
Right.
60 for a multiple.
It's actually more signage than we currently allow.
There's a lot of
There's a lot of
signage
signage here. We're not denying people signage, we're increasing the amount of signage. And it's based on the size of your building too.
Yep, maximum aggregate sign area, 1 square foot per linear foot of building, up to 65 square feet.
So that's small.
That's a big sign.
And this does not allow for any kind of digital signage.
It does indeed.
Where?
On page, I don't know what page number this is, because I can't.
I didn't
But
put
it
pages
it
on
does
sign.
show digital changeable sign copy. I think it's like the 3rd or 4th page of it. It's before we get to the area by sign type.
Okay, but the kind of digital signs you were talking about the other day with the Rumble Market, I don't think it allows for that.
Static display containing no more than 15
Yeah,
words, minimum
static.
20 seconds.
Yeah,
But it also has,
doesn't allow for full motion,
No,
it doesn't allow for high,
but they don't want full motion.
we weren't
want
allowing,
full motion.
We were
we
talking
weren't
about
allowing for full motion because we don't want the distraction.
If we had
Digital
8
changeable
signs
copy
near
sign.
each other, all with motion,
high definition here, I don't.
We don't make that distinction.
Static display, right.
No, we don't make the distinction. It could be the large pixel or it could be the high definition. The issue is brightness.
Right. We restricted to 5,000 nits.
And Jim and I were supposed to go with Rob
Yeah.
down to the sign guy yesterday, but Rob has broken both of his heels.
Yes.
And
Jumping
Jim
off a
had a
roof?
doctor's appointment. Yeah, he was cleaning off his roof and he fell off. I shouldn't say that, I'm violating HIPAA law here. But
I'm not a member of this fire department, so I don't have to worry about it.
We won't tell them which department you belong to.
Good point. Any case, the,
Where were you guys reading?
Previous
It
page.
is- Yes, the previous page.
so it makes no distinction between any kind of signage. So you could put, actually, this is kind of Wild West, because we were talking about making some restrictions on the size of the area of a high definition or a digital signage, and we don't have that.
Yeah, it's a maximum sign area for digital changeable copy sign is 20 square feet.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
But this is not a copy sign.
Yeah, it's
We're
not.
talking about, this is a high definition graphic sign. And it has this
So that's
thing.
the same thing, digital
Max-
graphic
max-
No, a
display.
copy sign is not, the copy sign is a very
Read-
specific
Digi-
kind of
yeah,
sign.
Digital graphic display sign says that the maximum area is also 20 square feet.
Okay.
So if you're gonna have a digital sign, it's 20 square feet.
What does copy sign mean?
You can change it,
But it's text.
It's text.
it's text.
Yeah. Now, so what I was saying is I'm looking to go meet with those guys next week, because I want to take the code enforcement officer with me for obvious reasons, because he's going to be the one who's going to have the questions. And how do I enforce this thing? So I want him part of the discussion. The sign people have all of these ordinances, they have this ordinance, and they're going to react to them. And we're gonna have a sit down and talk, I wanna talk to the pros about this stuff. They're gonna give me their perspective, I'm gonna give them our perspective, and Jim's gonna give the enforcement issue. Because, you can put all these little signs in here about 5,000 nits, but Jim's the one who's gonna go out and make a determination if somebody's in compliance or not. He's gotta be able to have an easy way of doing that that's defensible in court if it comes to that.
Now, I'm assuming that can be programmed in the maximum nits.
I don't know.
It must be.
It's got a dimmer control, so it
It's
must.
got a dimmer
Yeah.
control, but how do you measure? It's
I
like
mean,
sound, you know that we can't have over
We
65
require a
dB.
dimmer control,
It's a
but
very
this
basic-
doesn't require them to dim it.
It's easy to measure.
This
But
just
you
says
require
that I
to
have a
set the
dimmer
maximum.
control. We don't say they're gonna reduce anything during that time.
We do.
No, we
Not
don't.
dimmer, but
Hang on,
just
it's-
a maximum
It says
brightness.
that you have a maximum brightness, but it also says that you have to have a dimmer control to produce a distinct illumination change from higher illumination to lower for the time period between half hour before and a half hour after.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to
You have to
adjust
have
it down.
No, it doesn't say you have
It
to
just
adjust it
says
down,
it-
it says you have to have a dimmer control that can do that.
Oh,
I agree with you.
yeah,
But
okay.
The previous,
you're
the
right.
previous.
Because the previous says 5,000
Right.
maximum,
Says-
5,000 nits during the
Yeah,
daytime.
so-
And
So that-
5,000
that
nits
sets
in
the
the
limits.
day and
500 at
500
night.
at night, so you're gonna have to dim it down.
Okay, my issue.
But you're right, I
With
wasn't
number
reading it
5,
that way.
which is that all displays must be static for a duration of no less than 15 minutes. So that means you have these full digital signs, but you can't change text, you can't change anything on it. It's gotta be completely static for 15 minutes.
Right.
And that doesn't fit with the way these signs are used.
Depending on where they're being, Times Square is all that sensory overload, but we don't really want that driving down the road. If there were 5 or 10 signs like that, all moving, that'd be quite distracting if there was any type of motion. That's the way I see it. And even in Boston, they don't allow the motion, they allow it to switch, but not to have
And there's
motion.
provision in the copy sign portion of it, D, that allows for more frequent text changes. You just can't show a video up on the,
Right, but.
But what is motion giving you? Tell me what motion is really giving you.
It's, the whole point of a sign is to attract attention.
Right,
So it attracts your eye. As Arundel Market was talking about, Coca-Cola, like somebody, drinking a Coke or whatever, just a simple movement attracts the eye and that attracts attention. That's the point of the sign.
so John, I'm gonna play, yes, how does
the big video display sign fit into the rural character?
It doesn't.
Which is why John doesn't want it at all.
No, actually, I like the high definition digital signs
I had to say it.
because I think they're attractive and can be, they're very cost effective for an owner because you can easily change them when you need
Very,
to.
very professionally.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
There isn't any, that you're gonna pay that much money and it's gonna look horrendous.
Right.
Oh, but it depends
But-
on what you do with
I
it.
just-
You can have the most expensive house in the world and paint it a shitty color, you know? You never know what they want, the intent, that's where we need some parameters.
I'm not necessarily a fan of signs in general, but when you're talking rural character, it's signs of all kinds are certainly part of rural character. Absolutely.
Burma shade used to be
Oh,
all
you
rural.
bet. I was thinking of putting up some Burma shades on my land, you know, because there's a lot of messages you can get
Yeah.
across, but anyway.
Make
better
it
be all
political
political.
speech, and they're all covered.
Only for short periods of time.
Political speech you can't control.
That's right.
Control the
Okay, what
size.
the town
You
thinks.
can control the size.
You can control the size of it.
You just can't control the content
I'm
or
gonna
the
get me a little
duration.
digital copy sign, I'm gonna make me a message.
But, yeah, I mean, signs were, that, all kinds, big, small, vulgar, and beautiful were all part of rural
I
character.
know one kind they didn't have back then, that was digital.
That's
Yep,
right.
that's right. It
But
did.
they had some very nicely painted ones,
They
Yeah.
did.
that was their digital.
Some would-
Yeah, if
Both
you
sides
wanted
of
it
the barn
animated,
would-
you'd have to
would-
move that
Now,
barn with a
if-
red man sign.
Well,
gonna
no,
go
the
down-
animated one was
Put it on a trailer.
the animated one was the farm girl bending over on the lawn, right?
All right.
If you can do that, I would, if you wanna put up a sign like that, I think we can make it a
They
historic.
have those.
It's Hawks Plaza in Wyndham on 302
Right.
had that,
Yep.
Right.
except it's broken now.
Okay. Digital graphic display sign. I'm happy with it, I don't think that it's a problem. We have the controls on day and night in terms of brightness and
And we'll get.
And I don't even know if those fit right.
And
We'll,
we'll get
we'll hear
some.
back, we'll hear back from the company.
Well, I think we ought to allow animation, but that's my only comment on that.
It seems like from when Rob was here last week, from around the market, I think everything he was saying would fit within.
He liked this, he said that there's
Yeah.
nothing here that's gonna prevent me from doing this sign.
From what he
Except for
has
the
in
sign.
mind, right,
Except for the
that's
size.
one
That's
on.
one.
We got somebody in the audience, I think you wanted to say something.
No,
Oh, you
no,
were
just,
waving your hand around.
just like animation.
He's animated, he's animated.
He's
Yeah,
animated.
exactly, there.
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
gonna tell you more than drink Coke.
That's right.
But in this, I think there's enough flexibility in item 5, E5, to allow for a transition
Yep.
between your static displays,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
you know.
I
15
actually,
minutes is a long time.
Well,
and
actually,
15
that's,
minutes may be a long time, we may look at saying, well, no, it's,
Yeah.
5 minutes or 10 minutes. I have a problem with 20 seconds on the changeable copy sign. I don't think 20 seconds is any place close to long enough.
But your average TV shot is like 2 seconds.
TV?
That's a long one, right? And
TV?
go to your living room. What are you
in
doing on the road watching television?
commercials on TV are like 30, not 30 seconds, half a second.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
30 seconds.
but you're not driving 60
that's right, you're
miles
not
an hour
driving
in
down
your
the road.
sofa.
And that, to me, that's the
That's
problem I
right.
have with the 20-second sign. I'm driving down the road and the sign is gonna change from the time I see it to the time I get
How
by
does
it, it's
that
gonna
bother
change.
anybody these days?
Oh.
Are you kidding? I keep seeing shiny little cars drive by my office. And I get distracted by looking at the cars.
But that's you.
That sounds like a
You get
personal
distracted by
problem.
shiny
Plus,
things.
That's half the people on
Plus,
the road.
I'd be texting and eating French fries at the same time.
There you go, right.
Yeah, let's text.
Right?
We could change, we could
We
change the
already have
signs by
enough
texting.
distractions as we drive. We have to watch out for the other
Well, I
guy.
don't think it's our job to protect people from themselves. If they're gonna do this kind
Yeah,
of
so
stuff.
we don't need to worry about septic systems.
Then why do we have all these ordinances
Yeah, why do we have these
protecting
ordinances?
everybody?
I know.
That was just me, and I'm, you know, if you guys all think 20 seconds is fine, then we'll stay with 20 seconds. I just look at it and I don't think 20 seconds is long enough. And you may have a valid point, 15 minutes may be too long.
I think it's way too long.
So what should we reduce it down to?
Ricky, I have a comment.
Whatever it's gonna be,
Okay.
it's gonna be
At
arbitrary.
60 miles an hour driving down the highway, the state has signs up that says lane change ahead, reduce speed. You read all of that in a matter of, on the approach, in 600 or 800 feet. At 60 miles an hour, you read all of that, and you pass the sign, and you know what you have to do.
Yeah, and you're talking
Okay.
like, what,
And you're-
maybe 5, 10
So
seconds?
that's,
Less than that.
Yeah.
In like
One sign. Right?
We're
One
talking
sign, you
about-
don't have a plethora of signs.
Right, you have lane change, reduce speed, whatever. There's usually
Right,
three
probably enough.
lines of text that are there that are legible that tell you what's gonna happen. And your foot is right to the floorboard.
And I agree with those, but those signs don't change. That message stays there.
No?
It doesn't change.
You go to the next sign, it says right lane closed. You go to the next sign, it says middle lane closed.
They also
And now
have
I'm
the
in
orange
trouble because I
barrels.
closed all three of the lanes.
And there's only one of them, there's not 50 of them in your view,
Yeah, my point
You
is
gotta
that
think about the.
if the
visual
text on the
overlay.
sign changes,
Yeah,
every 20 seconds it would be distracting. Because you'd see it change and you'd wanna see what it looks like, so you may take your eyes. If it's a fixed sign, yeah, you're right, we see it, but, and, okay, it registers, but if the sign itself changes,
mhm.
you know,
We're
when they
gonna have
change
to
to or when they change from.
Mr. Chairman, we're gonna also have to change our sign performance standards, because our number 3, in our, the third one in our sign performance standards in section 512 says, no sign shall have any animated or moving parts.
Yeah, you're right, we're gonna have to
We're gonna
change that when we get
change,
there.
We delete it.
We may not get there tonight though, but we will definitely have to change
Well,
that.
no, because we're not even there yet. We're dealing, the point is that the town historically, as most towns say, we don't want a lot of moving stuff on signage because it's too distracting for traffic purposes, traffic safety purposes. That's why.
Yeah,
Road signage, you're specifically trying to say, pay attention to me and don't look at anything else.
Hang up the phone.
Right, hang up the phone, merge left before you kill somebody.
I mean, and right now, where we talked about the speed limit, this is essentially a speed transition zone.
Yeah.
Where we're going from a 50-mile-an-hour zone down to a 35-mile-an-hour zone. The last thing we need in that type of transition zone
Is
is
distraction.
a further distraction.
Well,
so something for us to think about, but if, we're gonna have to, do you
And-
have, do you have
And
a
then
plan?
one other good thing, I mean, we don't have it here, but if you go south, you go on I-84 in Connecticut.
Yeah,
for
try not to.
instance, It's a good point, but all of their billboards are all these digital signs.
Yeah, they are.
High definition.
And they all
digital
change.
signs, and they all change. But they change every 10 minutes or so. They usually stick them there for a while and then they change.
Yep.
DOT's got something on that, I don't know what it is. But those are all high definition, and when they change, they can be distracting. And that's why they keep a distance between them, to make them go in an array, so they aren't changing at the same time together.
So, let's just look at the concept of, let's work on the E5, which is 15 minutes.
It's a long time.
That's a long time.
That's a long, it
That's
is a long time. You guys, should we change it or not? And if so, what should we change it to?
I think 5 minutes is all right, it still might be too much. 15 minutes, I'm thinking if we ever had traffic through sets of lights, you're sitting there, you see it change, and maybe you might see it change again. But, and that's all right.
If
But
you're sitting there,
But
yes.
15 minutes, you'd never see the other, so you wouldn't get that extra information out to the traffic.
but why not every minute? Why
It
not
might
every
be
30
too much, 'cause
seconds? I mean, it only changes whenever it changes, when somebody is there, it's distractive. But if somebody doesn't happen to be right there when it's changing, it's not distractive.
I think what Rich said, I do all the time, when I see something change and it's like maybe 30 seconds, I know I'll be watching for the next thing. It
What's
just,
your license plate?
well,
I don't wanna be following you.
you don't wanna be in front of me either. But I can't be the only one that does that. If it changes too often, you're waiting for the next
See,
thing.
there's something wrong with you. If you're watching the sign, you're supposed to watch the road.
So why do we have
But-
changeable
then why
signs
do we
that
have
distract
signs?
us then?
Right.
Why do we have
If I'm
signs?
supposed to be watching the road, why do I need to have a sign at all? Because I'm not gonna see the sign, I'm watching the road.
No, you see it in your peripheral vision.
That's not-
And I
But
get
there's-
distracted in
but
my
this-
peripheral vision.
Uh,
Remember the
I
little
think
shiny
this is-
object?
I really think this is a bogus argument. I don't think there's any facts to support this.
Support what?
Distracted driving, there's
That,
tons of
that,
facts.
that signage that changes causes more accidents.
I would argue that it's not just signage that changes. We did away with billboards in the state of Maine for a reason other than that they were ugly. People are driving down the highway reading the billboard signs, and they are losing control of their vehicles. That's why they don't have them out
I
here.
think you're making this up. I don't think
Oh,
there's
no.
any statistical evidence for that.
Go find out why the state of Maine did away with billboard signs.
I know why they did.
They distract.
Because we had too many hippies in the audience.
No, they did away with those before the hippies showed up. At any rate, back to this question of 15 minutes.
I think it should be,
Do you think 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
I think it should be down to less than a minute. I think 30 seconds is fine.
I'd go 5.
Somebody make a motion. And we'll change it to 5 or 30 or whatever.
I'll move 5 for discussion, lower it from 15 down to 5 minutes.
Do I have a second?
My,
Okay, motion's made and seconded. We reduce it to 5 minutes.
my argument is, if 5 minutes is good, why isn't 2 minutes good?
Okay. And my argument, concern is, if under digital changeable copy sign, we can allow them to change every 20 seconds, why do, this is the same kind of thing that
It
is
is.
a picture.
It is
Well, and I
it is
think
the
that
same kind of sign.
That was,
I'm wondering why we're up to 5 minutes.
Well, I'm
Why
thinking.
are they different?
Why are they,
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe they should all be the
Maybe they
same,
should.
I don't know, I'm just putting that.
whatever it is.
I totally agree. I
I don't claim to know the answer.
Well, I think one is an image with lettering, one is just strictly lettering. I think that's
Yeah,
what
But
it
they're
is.
both attracting your eye to it, trying to
Oh,
get,
I don't disagree.
trying to get the
Maybe too
information.
much.
I won't disagree with you. I figure if we can
I'm just,
get one of these resolved, we can work on the
I
other one.
want, again, 'cause I believe in consistency and understand
Yeah,
at least the rationale behind it.
I agree, but I also believe in apples and oranges. I don't believe in apples and oranges. You know, it should be the 20, I'll tell you honestly, the 20 seconds was the tolerance point I had looking at the Gray Town digital sign. That was just too much. They just go boom, 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 like this at you.
But,
And that yellow on black at night, it was just,
but that flashes.
no, it wasn't flashing, it was just changing.
Okay.
It
It
was-
appeared to be flashing at 20
It appeared to be flashing, it was
Yeah.
going so fast, it was rolling so fast, you know.
At 20
Leaf
seconds.
collection this day, and you're going, holy moly.
So let's get back to this discussion of 5 minutes. And then we can address the issue of 20 seconds.
Well, I support Bob's argument that it ought to be consistent,
So do I.
and I don't see any reason for limiting it to 5 minutes in the first place. Or using 5 minutes as the arbitrary point of change.
Whatever we.
And I will agree,
Yeah.
it is an arbitrary point. It is something that we have said, okay, that's,
I have one good question. If you're gonna go see the sign guy, okay? You want to get his information for the idea of distance or location of time of changing it.
I'm sure he's gonna give me some, he's got all this, he's gonna give me his input on this.
Does DOT have any criteria on this?
Yeah, don't put any signs within our road. They don't hate signs, as you
Yeah.
all know.
No.
They hate signs.
That's pretty
They
much
do
their
everything
standard.
they can to keep any sign out of the view, the 22-degree viewpoint of any, put in the front seat.
But, I don't know if they have it, to be honest with you. I don't think they've really regulated it, because they don't allow billboards. So,
How about other towns you know of any?
Yeah, this came from another town. Some of these standard, I didn't make up, the 20 seconds was from Greg, the 15 minutes was from Virginia.
Yeah, but we're not in Virginia.
Right.
Yeah, but nobody else has got it.
Somebody else
That's right.
tried to do some sort of.
It gives us a
It gives
starting
you a
point.
base point,
Gives
yeah.
you a base-
Okay,
base
what does
point to go.
Bedford have? Because they have digital signs.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, instead of going to Virginia, I mean, let's try to keep something that's,
Well, it might be fairly easy to find information. You go online and you Google stuff and Virginia may show up.
Well, that's what
I
happens.
did, I've done Google research and stuff shows up from all over the country and nothing in my own backyard. Because they just, what if they didn't put it out there? So,
Maybe it's so new that they don't have anything yet.
what are we gonna do with this
Saying we're on
money?
cutting edge, Tom?
Huh?
Saying we're on the cutting edge?
I think we
We're
are.
on the cutting edge.
Cut that time in half.
Attract all those businesses that want these animated blinking
Animated
signs.
signs,
Finally, this
overwhelm their lack of sewer.
We may be on the cutting edge, but it would be of a dull axe. A
It
dull,
might be
rusty
the,
axe.
it may be the handle.
One more thing about this, since it is unless we find some good models, it is kind of a little bit of unknowns, and it's much easier to loosen it up afterwards, rather than tighten it up later. We won't be able to get away with that. So I think 5 minutes, it seemed like, Rob, the only business that has talked to us about it so far was all right with even 15 minutes. So 5 minutes must be even better for more. So,
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Let's either vote it up or down. All those in favor
5 minutes?
of 5 minutes? Yep. All those opposed?
What about you, Marty?
How about you, Marty?
I don't care, you gotta do whatever you want anyway.
Is that an abstain?
Is that an abstention?
Yeah, it sounds.
Sound like it is.
If it's an abstention, then the motion is gonna pass 3-2 with one abstention.
Yeah.
What was the way I saw two hands. Oh, Richie.
Somebody's lightning cord.
You have a chance.
Not a chance.
Don't you ever say nothing to me. You lost all your political buddies.
Now
Bob, which way you go? No.
let's address Bob's issue of making them consistent.
I was gonna say, that my no was primarily based because we never resolved the main issue.
What? No, let's
I gotta go to the bathroom.
make them consistent. Make
Well,
them,
oh, you mean,
make the digital
copy sign?
copy.
It's a digital, is a digital.
all digital is
It-
5
And
minutes.
the
5
copy
minutes for
sign,
copy sign? That's,
God.
see what
That's-
consistency?
That is Bob's argument. It
It's a
should be
bad-
consistent on both sides.
Okay, all diving boards should be 20 feet tall.
We're not jumping into a pond.
You're jumping into a pool of fire. I mean,
But
come on.
But
It's apples and
that was
oranges.
Bob's argument, that they should be
But-
consistent.
But it's
But I
not-
agree with Ted.
It's apples
two
and oranges,
different
come
types
on.
of signs.
Oh, I'm not gonna argue that point. I'm just saying,
But let's,
If-
let's torment Bob when he's back.
Okay.
so what if someone that has a digital graphic display sign claims that all they want for is text? Is that a copy sign or is it a?
That's a
It's
copy
text.
sign.
it's
If
a
they
changeable
put out
copy
only
sign.
text, yeah, it's copy. But the wait a minute, copy sign has a limit of how many lines, doesn't it?
15 words.
15 words, so it's a damn big
15 words in
copy
20
sign.
seconds. There's a running
And the
quick.
words-
That's a
this
big,
big,
that's a
right.
lot of copy.
That's a lot of copy.
Can you mix it up? Can you have some just text and then go to graphics?
Then you're a digital graphic.
So you can do 20 seconds of text,
And
5
minutes of picture.
Yeah, this is not gonna be distracting.
No, not at all.
And think of it in cumulative terms, guys. Think of the road of this.
Right.
You
You
know?
have a whole bunch
You're
of wall
thinking this is
changes.
one at a time.
We got
Right.
Burma shade
They
signs
lose
all
effect.
the way down the road.
Moving, flashing, did Burma shape.
Las Vegas does okay with it.
Yeah, good. If you can get Las Vegas here, I will agree with you.
Well,
I will
part
move.
of the goal is to get business here, I think.
Our signage has never really been an issue. If you recall. Because we have 100 square feet of signage you can have on a property on Route 1. 25 feet tall. Doesn't seem to have done very much good.
Well,
We don't have.
nothing's done much good.
Okay.
So we
So
can't
what do
see
we,
it
what do
anyway.
we do with the digital copy sign? Do we leave it at 20 seconds? Do we change it to 5
I think
minutes?
the 20 seconds was reasonable, that's why it was the other number that just seemed crazy
Okay.
to me.
Right, so leave it as is.
Do we leave it at 20 seconds? I'm game either way. I think it's distracting, but if the majority of you say 20 seconds, then we're staying with 20 seconds.
Or else we can do at the planning board's discretion.
Nope. I don't wanna see them coming back every time they decide to
Oh,
change
yeah.
their mind. We give them 20 seconds and they come back and say, no, I want 30, or no, I want 15. It's like, I don't wanna see them come back.
Let's move on.
So let's move on from there.
Where is the signage?
It's 5 to decide.
Actually,
Yeah, it is.
15 minutes?
Yeah.
5 minutes.
5.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
We've looked at the size of the signs.
What about, I just happened to catch my eye,
Okay,
audio and pyrotechnics.
not allowed.
Not allowed, correct, but what about laser projections? We don't have anything for that.
Oh, we want them?
I don't necessarily think so, but, you know, laser projections, you can project lines, you know, up and around and, I mean, it's not a sign really, but it produces movement and all of that, so.
It'd be under a lighting ordinance, I think.
How about these
think
new
so.
hologram signs?
Well,
Yeah, well, that's what I
hologram,
was
yeah,
thinking
now
he
we're
was talking
talking
about,
cutting
was
edge.
Where they put them up, on the thing, I've seen a couple of those are neat.
They're already out with signs?
Yeah,
J Brothers wants to do that.
But what about them? I mean, they're not addressed here at all. How would we treat those?
Not allowed.
not allowed if it's not showing up.
Permitted use, huh? So do we want them not allowed?
The holograms or the laser thing?
Well, either one.
I think at this point, yes, we want them not allowed.
If you want, if we can get Walt Disney World here, I'll agree with it.
Until we can get,
Put a holographic sign.
Viable.
What's wrong with that?
that would be distracting to anybody. All of a sudden you have a
Incoming
hologram
flights
showing
in
up on your
Portland
side.
Jetport.
That would be attractive.
I don't know, what's, I mean,
That's right, I turned the ordinance.
what would be different between
You know,
a holographic sign and Bentley's motorcycle up on the pole?
Honestly, John.
That's
I
like
don't know.
three-dimensional and that's not distracting.
Can't see it, it's too high. Seriously,
It is too
Yeah.
high.
it's too high.
But
But-
that's what I'm saying, why would a holographic sign be distracting?
It wouldn't be that high. But, you know, I don't know. On that one, I really can't say if it would be distracting or not.
Here we go. Electronic message centers. Where permitted, this is Bedford. May change messages no more than once every 5 minutes. Bedford.
That's
Bedford.
us.
Arundel.
EMC
No,
What
that's
about-
their
what
message.
about-
shall
Which is
not
what we're
have
calling
scrolling, rolling, blinking, or intermittent lighting.
Yeah.
No scrolling, rolling, or blinking.
Right, we already have that.
No, we don't.
I don't
No
think we do.
flashing or rotating signs or reader boards or string lighting is allowed.
I think it should be in the EMCs, as they call it, electronic
Yeah.
message
Well, that's,
centers.
you know, granted, the language could be
Wording of the
tweaked,
verbiage, yeah.
Yeah.
but
So no flashing, rotating, or blinking?
Rolling,
How about
scrolling, or.
marquee,
Rolling,
like
scrolling, blinking, or
scrolling?
intermittent lighting. Rolling, scrolling, that would be scrolling. That would be rolling.
Yeah,
So it's gotta be static, that's what they say.
so it just comes on, and
Yeah.
then,
Fades out and goes,
Fades out.
changes out.
Do they address,
I'm looking,
fully graphic?
I did that right. They got landmark signs, but they actually do have landmark signs.
Man, no rolling, scrolling, isn't, oh wait, that's soccer, that's not good.
Which one do you think of?
What's
The one
I'm
down
thinking
the
of
t-shirts.
Automile then.
Oh, but those are,
God, that's
that doesn't apply to your time and temperature signs, right? Those usually scroll.
Those are static, those have to be static. Yeah, they
You
don't
know,
make a distinction
they
on
scroll
that,
it
John.
on the transition a lot of times.
John, they don't make a
But
distinction.
if you
as
say
to-
you can't have a school in your
So you get 5 minutes, you have to hold it for, wow, doesn't City Hall have something that's well, that's good for you. You want me to check out Saco for fun of it?
Nah,
We gotta,
I'm having fun
better.
now.
we gotta make a decision on that.
feel better about the town.
All right, with the table, is that?
That's, we've already been through that.
Okay.
Well, not here yet, we have to do two.
No, we just,
I'm staring at the map.
before we get into this digital sign, we had that whole, we went through that whole table issue.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued with, because I swear I looked at Saco's.
So things like balloons are not allowed, things like searchlights are not allowed, right?
Does anybody have
Balloons
searchlights
and
in
such
there?
Balloons, only if they're less than 15 feet high.
Yeah, but you know about how they did the searchlights to attract attention, that's not allowed, I think. But what about things like balloons or things like, well, no, yeah, that's signage, right? 'Cause we addressed that with banner, what do we call those?
Keep them below 15 feet, maximum height 15 feet, so if you can keep your
What's those
balloon below
blowy
15
things?
feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but, yeah,
Or the stickman on the.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, shape lettering, so I guess that comes later.
Well, remember, a lot of this stuff is also then gonna, the basic standards go in the performance standards.
Right.
Remember, these are standards that are specific to the district. And I'm not gonna let go of this, I'm in Saco's ordinance right now.
Okay, where we going, Mr. Chairman?
Design requirements?
Yeah, design requirements for post and directory signs. Actually, where we should go is, let's take a look at that and get through it, if we can, so that we can get a planner's report when we go home.
Well, I've already gone through this with the other zones. I'm all right if we keep it the same.
So this is the DD, right?
Wow. That is complex. Jeez. Read the Saco sign in this.
I have a question on, the product logo. It says, signs should not contain logos of manufacturers of products that are not the principal products sold by the business. What about the digital signs? Are they allowed on those?
Yes, because this is specific to post and directory signs. So these would-
Wouldn't it, what if the digital is on top of the?
I'm sorry, Tom, I'm not paying attention. Where are you?
Well, it's about, question about the logo is,
Where are we?
it says number 4E, last page. So it's just restricting logos, use of logos. But I think we're gonna see many businesses going to the digital, it just makes sense. So,
You know, I think this was dealing with the signs that are mainly like, it's got Pepsi over 3/4 of the sign, and it's got Joe's Variety underneath it, that kind of sign.
I get the feeling that's probably what we'll see on the digital signs. They'll be paid, they'll earn advertising.
They'll probably have a Coke on there, but they won't have the Coke logo spread all over the place.
Why
They'll probably have the
not?
Coke come in and then, but I think this would be for a static, this was specifically for the static sign. Just to get a little better
Well,
quality sign.
does it make a difference?
Yeah, it's,
Because if I had a business and I was gonna get paid $3 every time I had that Coke logo, I'd put it up as many times as possible.
Well, they're not getting paid
Every
every.
20 seconds, it's Coke. you know.
Well, what they do actually in that situation is they pay for the sign and then you've gotta meet their standard, you don't get paid for it.
Well, why
They
don't
pay
we
for the sign.
want
That's what
product
happens.
logos? I mean, why do we not want them to begin with?
Who, nonprofits?
No,
product
the
logo.
product logo.
Because I think originally we were looking at it more from the point of view of not having, remember this was the DB2 area, so you wouldn't be advertising Bud. You know, we were talking about your logo being the principal product that you have, like the, who's the yarn guy that's
Okay,
on?
so, rather than not having product logos, that ought to be, that it can't be the predominant
Right.
part of the sign, must be less than 50% of the sign, and we're excluding the product logo.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
In other words, they don't want anybody to get a free sign.
Well, actually,
Part
the
of
digital
business
signs are
today.
one of that problem. It's a static, well, basically what this was focused on was making sure that we didn't have, as I said, a static sign that has, geez, give me a break. It has, basically all, like, a gigantic Pepsi and then Bob's Variety, little letters on the side. It was saying, look, you know, terrific, you can have the logo there, but it cannot be, you know, the major focus of the sign, because then it's
just an advertisement.
It's just
not-
an advertisement for Coke.
For, yeah.
or for, you know,
And I understand that, but will that apply to the digitals?
well, that's a very good question.
I think we'd have to specify.
I think we have to
whether it does or
specify
not,
this would be
but-
the static sign, or it would be a.
But why do we not want it on statics, but it would be all right on digital?
Well, because the digital's gonna change, isn't it? It's gonna
Well,
show
go
a
from
Coke.
Coke to Bud to
Pepsi.
Suzy Q's to
Well, you know,
Pepsi.
that's another question.
It
Is that
might.
what you want?
And it might never say the name of the business.
Well, I think what we're gonna
Right.
also find is in this, no, they're gonna say the name of the business, they're not just gonna put that up.
but that's revenue for business.
Right, it doesn't, you're telling business how they can't make money.
How they can't make money. I mean, I can understand if in both places, that product signage that isn't the principal product of a business can't be on for more than 49% of the time of their advertising. Just like the sign itself, at least half of the sign has to be to the business.
Yep.
And half the sign can be dedicated to a product or multiple products. Why do we care?
I don't know that we even need to regulate it. I mean, if a business, you know,
Once I put up a
if
sign.
you wanna
that's within your
advertise
sign-
yourself, you're gonna put your own name up there, and if you're not gonna do that, then what's the point of putting the sign up? You know, I think people will take care of that themselves. I don't know that we need to regulate it.
Well, the reason why you guys put it originally was because you didn't wanna have that kind of signage. You can go to downtown Westbrook and see that in every square foot. You can see it in all sorts of places where you have the Pepsi or the Coke sign, and everything is a Pepsi, Coke, or Bud sign. And it's not, what you guys were trying to do, as you recall, was trying to create signs that had some character to the business. Saying, don't advertise Interstate Batteries when you're a variety store. You know, you're basically saying, hey, we're trying to create a little bit of character here in Arundel and make sure that whatever product is advertised is actually available at the store.
And my point is, with the digital, there's, I think, a stronger likelihood that there'll be more of that, because
Probably will be.
there could be more
It's
revenue.
easy,
Instead of,
easy to change.
The one,
Yeah,
the one thing
change
that
it.
we,
I think we could solve this in E with what you were just talking about changing the word "the" shall not contain logos of manufacturers of products that are not the principal product to a product.
Or else we limit this basically to a non-digital sign.
well, the problem that, I gotta tell you, the problem that creates, you can have one post sign.
Right.
It's either gonna be a logo sign or it's gonna be a digital sign. You can only have one.
Well, you also, you're missing something here. And this is actually something that Rob and I were talking about. The sign, digital sign, most digital signs are not standalone.
Right. They've
They're
got a
part
static
of
part.
a sign. You know, and Rob and I were even taught about doing a sign for Arundel Market, which was a lower sign. I'll give you an example here. You know, you have this kind of signage. Remember, we got the 911 thing going on here. See, here's your sign. posts, you got your E911 up here, that's your address, and you might put Arundel Market here. Arundel Market, since I ran out of room. And then your digital sign might be right in here. Okay. This is how, actually, most of these digital signs are done. They're not standalone, and that's the only sign they've got. It's usually part of their overall signage. And actually, this is something he's looking at doing at some future day when he does the full rehab.
But if somebody
This is what
did
it
a
looks
sign, if a business did a sign like that,
Yeah.
and they had a lighted sign that said Coca-Cola products for Arundel Market, I mean, they sell Coke, it may not be the principal one, but they sell Coke, and they can get money from Coke, and then it allows
Well,
them to give out.
and what I'm saying is, and Rob's a good example, Rob's sign is from Coke. And his requirement is that he advertise Coke on there. Okay, that's all right. But this concept was for this kind of signage. This is what we originally talked about a long time ago. Pepsi. Yeah, Pepsi. Yeah, can't spell. No, Bob's Market. You've seen these. We've seen them all. They're all over me.
Yeah, but that's not what this says. I
That's
mean-
that's exactly what it's targeted towards.
Yeah, but that's not what this says. It
Well,
says,
then
I think there's some wording there.
Then we can
needs to
change
be
it
changed.
to make it.
You know, it's gotta be a product that is I agree, it's gotta be a product that's available at the.
You don't want interstate
Right.
sign there for a
I
box
don't-
yarn
yeah.
shop.
I don't want a Pepsi sign on a.
Well, it happens. Pepsi sent on lawyer, well, it won't be on lawyers, but on accountants. Tax preparers, so-
Or products that are not sold by the business.
Put a sign up for you, Bob, you got it.
Huh?
That's what Jamie just
Yeah.
suggested.
Yeah, take out are not the principal product,
They're not sold by the business.
that are not sold by the business. I like that, Jim, if that's what you suggested too.
I'm gonna take your positive viewpoint here. I think, what's a sign for? Is it to identify the business or the products itself, or is it just a way for them to earn income?
Both.
Is it both? In the end, you might get a free sign if you have a Pepsi on you or something, but I would rather not see just all the logos on there of it end up being Pepsi, Coke, and Bud. That's, I don't know what else we see, that's what you see all the time. So you're driving down and you see 9 or 10 Pepsi, Coke to be competing with each other, bigger and brighter, and missing out on the business itself. You know, if it was just one, maybe you know that's Arundel Market, but if we want to have more businesses, especially on 111, we could have, like what happened in Bedford Crossing, dozens of businesses, which are all Pepsi, Pepsi, Pepsi.
Well, I don't see
See, I
any
don't
of
thi- I
that
don't
in
see where
any
that would
of-
happen.
I don't see any of that in
Well,
Bedford Crossing.
if
I
you
don't
go,
see
I've
any-
been in neighborhoods where,
Route 1 all the way through Maine.
what, with those type signs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all over Maine. Go to Old Orchard, it's all over Old Orchard.
Maybe that's preserving the rural character.
I haven't ever seen that. Yeah, maybe it is. That's a good point.
10-acre lots and Pepsi signs. Don't forget the red man.
I don't know, I don't remember seeing any of those signs in Woodford Beach.
Oh, God, they're all over the
I-
place.
I'm gonna have to look.
And maybe that's what I'm thinking, it's not a good image, you know, it ends up being a little kind of seedy, I think, you know, so it's nothing unique.
Right.
Yeah, I think we can all agree, you know, something that would look like that Arundel Market sign would be really nice. But I'm kind of concerned, you know, you get some business that already has a post sign up there, and now we say, oh, guess what, you can have a digital sign. Well, no, you can't, because all you can have is one post sign. So get rid of your business sign that you have right now, and we'll let you have a digital sign. To me, that becomes kind of problematic. I can understand the static post sign, and we want it to be the logo for the business, and have something related to the business. But Arundel Market's not, they have a sign, they're replacing their sign, but they would not put that digital sign on the side of the building, because nobody'd ever see it then. So I kind of wonder whether or not one post sign is appropriate. Or maybe we should just say, you know,
Well, we allow 2 post signs, but, you know, it depends on
And
the
the size
distances
of it.
between signs.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's the choice.
okay.
You know, either way, new signs have all gotta have that pediment at the top, the E911 pediment. They all gotta have that. And we all agreed that that was critical, the fire department
They do
wanted
have to
that.
have that.
It can be an eyebrow or something.
Give me an eyebrow, it can be,
But-
but
As
it's
long as
gotta
it's
be
there
up
and you can see it.
It's gotta be separate like that, so these guys can see it on a rainy day. Cause, you know, frankly speaking, the problem is, as you well know, Biddeford dispatches, they don't know where Arundel Market is. They
They don't
know
know
it's
where Arundel is.
395, you know, or 1060 Portland Road, that's
Yeah,
what they
neither
know.
did we. We had the sign in the wrong city.
There you go, that too.
Or we left that part of our city, gave it to the other one, I think.
Okay. Well, we're gonna
We
have,
must have missed it. We're in Biddeford.
we're gonna have to call an end to this one. It's 9:05,
Okay.
so let's find out if the planner has anything to tell us.
I would like to just make one comment at the end for the board to think about, and if you would like to put it on the agenda one of these times soon, it would be great. But we had talked about the possibility of having hazardous changes that would normally be staff level, but having hazardous materials come to the board, and then we decided not. I have a possible solution that I'd like people to think about, and then maybe we can talk about it some other time.
Is this related to the email with the discussion about 1,000-gallon propane
Yeah,
tank?
it's related to
I think
that.
I think that's an excellent idea.
But what I would propose, because I don't think we should change it so that the applicant has to come to the board for hazardous types of things. But I would like the board, the staff, to go ahead and review it like normally, but before staff makes a decision, they bring it to the board and discuss it with the board for any comments before a final decision is made. That way the board's aware of it, the board knows that staff has looked at all of the issues that might be there, and it doesn't impede the applicant.
I think
That
that's,
sounds like the planner's report.
right, that's
Well,
what I
no,
was thinking.
because the planner's report, they've already made the decision.
But
I'm saying before the planner or before staff makes a decision, they formally discuss it with the planning board.
I think it would be
can I get you to put that on the agenda for next time?
Yeah,
Because if we get into that
So
that
that would be an
discussion.
ordinance change.
Yeah,
Yeah, if we get
Yeah,
into
it
that
would be.
discussion now, we're gonna be at it forever.
Well,
yeah, right,
So,
but
yeah.
that's why I
I-
brought it
yeah,
up,
it's-
just to think about.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
um,
So we never came to any conclusion on these logos ones?
No, we're gonna have to revisit that issue next week.
Well, I thought we did make that change on the logos.
No, it wasn't voted on,
Okay.
it wasn't, there was no motion or anything. So if we can work something up for next week, maybe we can get it taken care of real quick. And then continue on from there.
You're gonna have a full boat next week of applications. Just to remind you, you're gonna have, Butler Grove won't be ready by next week, but he might be able to get me something. Do you want him on it next week or not? You've got, basically what you have is you're gonna have Stickman, you're gonna have Champion Auto, and you're gonna have, Ian.
Champion Auto?
Yeah. I gave those to you last time.
Right.
Oh, I wasn't here for last time.
And he was
So
actually-
AIM and Champion Auto are first time
New
in front of us.
application, so
Right,
they-
new
So they are gonna be
Right.
relatively straightforward.
AIM is a big thing.
there's nothing straightforward about it.
Well,
That's,
but
but it, you know, in terms of.
There's a lot of
the
stuff to
mission
read
and
on
stuff.
the, yeah, they're not complex.
Okay.
Champion
Yeah, let's-
is doing an expansion, and AIM, of course, is putting an putting in an auto salvage yard, basically.
Let's put Bud on there so that we can make a decision either to send him to the selectmen or to tell him to go home.
Well, we're sending it, okay, right.
Well, we have to make that
You
decision.
have to make that decision of what you want to do.
So let's put him on there so we can make the decision, assuming that he gets the maps to us.
Well, I will call Alfred.
Okay.
Alfred.
Is there any plan to report stuff
Yes.
that we have to cover?
Yeah, I wanna know what to do about the 1,000-gallon tank. Well, actually, the permit has already been issued, because that's the job,
That-
that's
that
the job of the code enforcement officer.
Yep.
The issue is, public access to that, because what they're gonna do is they wanna open it up for the public to use. Now, is that an expansion
So
of?
basically making it a public filling station.
It's a public filling station.
Right.
So
Expansion of use?
is that an
Change.
expansion of use, is
Change
that a
use.
conditional use that we should take it to the staff level, cause it's either staff level, or if you consider it is being conditional use. The use isn't, but the use isn't, but the existing overall use, the campground is a conditional use, so. From the site, if it's site plan only, then, it's done by staff level, actually, it's.
That's all part of that discussion that John wants to have.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I don't-
it's part of
I
the
don't
discussion you guys
necessarily-
have to do, how you wanna interpret
I
this.
don't wanna discuss it for this particular application.
Oh, no, I understand that, but that's part of the discussion that we would have to have. Do
Right,
we-
going
do we let
forward,
staff
how do we
review,
handle these things?
Go
right?
forward with it?
So staff will review this, we'll do a staff review committee, because
Yep.
the owner wants to know what to do, because he wants to know how many people he's gotta train, and so forth, if he's gonna do this for the public.
Right now, it's at staff review level.
Yeah.
Right. In
We
my
can have a
opinion,
discussion
It's
about
actually a
whether
cut-
it should
it's
be or not.
actually- Actually, to be very honest, unless they consider it conditional use, it's a code enforcement issue. It's too small of an expansion for a staff level review.
So what, 10,000 is it?
is it a 10,000 gallon tank?
No, it's
Not
30,000.
Yeah,
That was a 1,000-gallon footprint.
Okay.
See, the thing we have to realize, gentlemen, that's the other thing I'm gonna bring up, is we have no standards whatsoever when it comes to hazardous material fuel storage. We have nothing. Love to impose standards on fuel storage, and I have plenty of standards that we can use for fuel storage.
I was gonna say the state's got all sorts.
Yeah, and the state is the one who's approving of the installation and the operation of this thing, you know, above and beyond us. But, I mean, we can limit the amounts of fuel storage or the types of storage if you wanna get into that. The town has never done that, we have no authority to do it on that basis. There are other communities that do. I know I've written ordinances for the maximum amount of fuel that can be stored in any one site, underground and above ground, depending on the type. It's all up to how important it is to the community.
So my issue with the campground specifically would be, can the public safely enter, park, fill up their tank, do what they need to do in the area that they're looking to do without impeding traffic coming in and out to the campground, and return to Route 1 in a manner that is not gonna cause internal issues or external issues on Route 1.
Agreed.
I don't know, I haven't seen anything to understand whether that would be the
Really,
case
you're
or
just
not.
talking
I
about
think
the
the-
safe access, right?
yeah, I think that's
Right.
gonna be the big issue.
Is it,
Having the traffic coming back out onto Route
Yeah.
1, which is gonna be significantly more than there is right now.
I mean, yeah, where are they
Then we really
situating
have
this
to-
tank?
No,
I think you guys only out there to do your field
Oh, I have no idea, but he wants to sell it to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the public, if you think about camping, okay, most campers have propane.
Yeah.
So they don't
Yeah.
have to take their,
But he's not talking about selling it to the people at the campground.
Oh.
He's talking about selling it to people who drive over there to get it. Are you gonna drive over there to get it when you have to drive by 5 or 6 other places?
Did that already sell it?
Probably not.
But
You might.
I mean,
What's he and Brown sells it, right?
Yeah,
No.
market does.
no, they sell already. They're not
they
refilling
do
them.
tanks.
They sell
They
tanks,
do-
right.
they do exchanges.
So does anybody else
Yeah.
fill it in town? Because I don't know.
Um,
anybody
I
else.
don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
the one right there on that just moved.
Champagne?
Champagne.
Champagne's right, I was gonna say that.
I know they-
guess it
I know
depends
they
on where
fill.
you're coming from.
Okay, over on Post
The
Road.
only other one.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, they don't do it at their.
They're not at their new place,
Because they
no, I was
fill
just
it
trying to.
Yeah,
That's
that's
corporate.
where I bring mine.
The corp,
Okay.
that's the world headquarters, they don't do it there, at the world headquarters.
Okay, so I use charcoal, so I don't.
Yeah, yeah. The one that.
You know, to me, that would be the only concern I would have is, you know,
Yeah.
does it generate a lot more traffic?
Yes.
Our issues are not basically hazmat related, they're basically on traffic and circulation related.
Yeah.
From my point of view, yeah.
Right.
And the hazardous stuff, they have to meet the state requirements.
Right.
And the state's gonna sort of.
And-
What
and
this
we'll-
board may wanna think about is
All that
if you,
stuff.
if there's any way you wanna regulate that in the town. Hazardous materials are a concern. I will bring up the point that we do have three, actually, high-pressure gas lines that go through our community,
Yep.
right through residential areas.
Yeah.
If,
Right by your house.
if there's an accident on Route 1 that, because of the propane, we're gonna know about it, we're gonna hear it.
Yeah.
We're gonna hear it in Goodwin's Mills.
You mean Branch Brook isn't selling it to the public either?
They don't, they're not doing filling.
No, they're not doing
They're not
filling,
gonna
they're,
fill it, yeah.
Yet.
they're doing big, no, they're basically doing water stuff.
for the-
They're filling their bobtails, basically.
Anything else we have to hear about?
There's really, there's, we have a Rundle's Keep, which is also, they're trying to reignite their application, and, we have a little debate because their application was based on a net residential density of 2-acre zoning. And it's always been 3.
And at this point, given the lapse
There's a problem.
since that occurred, then
Oh, it's a new
that
application.
residential density of 2 is irrelevant.
Right.
It's
Well,
3.
I'd really like to know how 2 got there, because it was 3-acre zoning at the
Yeah.
time.
Well, I think it's quite simple myself,
Okay, can you tell me?
because at the time that they applied 10 years ago, all subdivisions had to be clustered,
Yeah.
and they could have acreage of any size they proposed, as long as they reserved
The open space.
the open space.
Right, but this is net residential density, this isn't what they ended up with acreage, this is the net residential.
Well, you were saying
density.
2 acres, that's.
That's
acres.
net residential density acreage. You know, net residential density, you subtract out the wetlands, the poor soils, the
Oh, see,
steep
we never
slopes.
had that.
Yeah, was that in place?
That
That's what I
wasn't
was
in
asking.
place then, this
Yeah,
would have been.
yeah,
sure?
'cause- yeah, because they
It's
have the
never-
calculation, they have the calculation right on the sheet.
We never did.
They have net residential
But
density.
if it
on the
wasn't,
sheet.
if it
It's
wasn't
on
a
the sheet, we must have had it
statutory
there.
calculation,
Who was the-
they may have just been
Who
demonstrating.
was the planner for that
Why
one?
would you do that?
I-
You would not do that unless you were required.
It wasn't
Who was the
Aaron.
planner?
Dan,
Dan
yeah,
Fleisch.
So you wonder if he required it?
well, it was in the ordinance at the time.
Well, I think at this point, it's moot.
Yeah.
However they
Well, it
came
is
up
moving,
with
I
the
was just
2.
wondering if you could tell me, because they asked me.
Yeah.
Because
And I said, I don't know.
Cluster stuff is still there.
It wasn't the cluster, it was the net residential density, you know, determining how many lots you could have. Based on net residential
I
density.
know we talked about it way back then, net residential density, I remember that with Fleischman, but I didn't remember it going into the ordinance.
I remember talking about it with Aaron, but I wasn't around when Dan was.
It's been in the ordinance for quite a while.
I thought as long as you preserve, back then, and it is a long time ago, as long as you preserve 50% of the thing of the land use, you could have quarter acre.
You still need to have an average, divide the buildable area, divide by the
Yeah,
number
but
of
see, I
units.
think, I don't know.
Is that-
Okay, well, anyways, I've informed them that the net
Well, the
residential
maximum
density is
to get it
based
up
on
so
that-
33 acres.
That
Well,
would
look,
change a lot for them, right?
Oh, it's a
yeah,
deal
okay.
killer.
Yeah.
It'd be a deal killer.
So, what else
They're
do we
also,
have?
they also wanna, they also would like the fire, they wanna sprinkle instead of build a fire.
Oh, yeah, well,
Well, we had
Is that allowed?
encouraged that. at
We had
one time.
encouraged that at one
We had
point.
encouraged that.
You
back
encouraged
then.
at one point, but frankly speaking, right now you use ISO standards in our subdivision ordinance.
Yeah.
I know now.
Have we heard anything on our friends down the road?
No,
Did they respond to your letter?
not yet.
okay.
I'm not surprised.
Is
So
the
we have,
selectmen been
we
here?
have, well, we have a number of different things going on,
Okay.
so, there's quite a bit. We also have, how you guys, we're going well on, believe it or not, they are working on the seasonal cottages.
I see the machine's kind of just sitting there.
Well, it is kind of sitting there, yeah, there's not really a lot you can do right now.
Sure you
I thought they
can.
do all kinds of.
Plow snow.
Shovel.
Yeah, they can.
You gotta find the ground to plow.
Uncover your signs.
Don't cover everything, don't cover your machines to start with. Just out of interest, last Thursday, I got, oh, actually today, I got it from our state rep. I haven't gotten
Put
it
it
in the
away,
mail
what?
yet, and so, but I get it from the state rep. We got our DCD, approval, conditional approval for the seasonal cottages. Last Thursday it was there. I'm going, what? What do you mean we just got it last Thursday? It's conditional. It's not final, it's conditional. It's got we got the report for 3 years. It's not a big deal, but it's just like, what? We did this in October, and we just got a conditional approval last week. So, anyways, we got our conditional approval, and they included on the
Seasonal
conditional,
cottages?
on the seasonal cottage for the tip.
Oh, for that tip, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's about all I've got right now.
Good job.
Oh, we gotta sign the Mylar, thank you. Please.
Okay, let's get a motion to adjourn and then we'll just sign the Mylars.
No, I think we have to do that during the meeting.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get ahead of it.
Send it.
Is it smaller? Let's see.
Too small, no, it's too big.
It's whether, this is how we tell.
So,
Whether
I
it
mean,
sticks to
we
Mylar.
No,
adjourned or
it,
not?
no, it runs. We're gonna have to do the fat minutes.
We'll make it.
Oh, wait a minute, I brought the wrong one. Never mind.
Oh,
No, we can't sign it.
No,
Can't sign it.
No, can't sign this one. Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Then he didn't stick.
Now
Okay,
make a motion.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. No, you know why? Because we didn't approve it, that's right.
Motion's been made, do I hear a second?
It's Stickman.
Motion's been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Yeah.
yes.
We're out of here.
Jeez, why do I have a, no, we signed all our Mylars.
Nine,
No, but this one's here, wait, let's sign it.
I thought they were from some 10 years ago.
Actually, we do have one we do have to sign.
Not tonight.
We're still waiting for it. Waiting for the final Mylar.
Now, next week we're at the school.